Thank you. Welcome to the February 27, 2018 meeting of the Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in a pledge of allegiance followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for the individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Ms. Winterfield?
Here.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mayor Winterfield?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is a presentation. But before we get started with that, I just want to give everybody just a little bit of a background on how we got here tonight. Back in October 2015, there was a group of individuals that came forward before council during a public comment, and they asked about a skate park. And the council had discussion about that, and they basically decided that we really weren't even qualified to even talk about it or make any decisions. They thought that it would be best if we formed an ad hoc committee and that they would be missioned with doing the following. They were to advise the council on a location, a design, a probable cause estimate, and what the ongoing maintenance would do. That was their only mission. They weren't to worry about insurance. They weren't to worry about skating hours. They weren't to worry about if they were going to wear helmets or not. That was their sole mission. And that is the reason why we are here tonight. This is the culmination of all their efforts for 2 years. They met with Parks and Rec. They flushed out a location. They looked for a designer. That went out to bid. We settled on a designer who's here tonight to present. And the members of that committee were Steve Connolly, who was the chair. Just raise your hand, Steve. Jordan Galliano. We had Aaron Mayer. Dave Sipple. I haven't seen him this evening. Tom Andrea was the liaison from Parks and Rec. And Councilman Rich Phelan was kind enough to be the liaison with that. So they completed their mission in December. And we've been talking about when are we going to have this meeting. Well, tonight's the night. One thing I want to say that tonight is not about all those things. It was not the mission. It's not about insurance. It's not about hours. It's really not about any of that. It's really this is the first time that council here is going through this presentation with the experts. There's been a lot of chatter, a lot of talk about what it is and what it isn't. But tonight we get to hear from the experts, and we get to ask the experts all the questions that everybody's been asked. So the turnout here is awesome, because this is the forum where this business is supposed to take place. And after they say what they have to say, and council gets to ask all the questions that they want to ask, you can ask the questions that you want to ask if they haven't been answered. And as Councilman Hurd had his presence here. I love that helmet and everything.
Still blinking back there.
Is it still blinking? He's right. We're all neighbors. We're all friends. We're here to vet out this project. It's an expensive project. It's something very different for Pequannock, and we have to make sure that it's a good fit and that we can afford to do it. And is this a direction we want to go in? Council has not had a discussion about go or no go yet. This is the first time formally that we're going through this, and as we go through the next couple weeks, we'll be having more discussions about if this project is a go or no go. There will be no action taken tonight. None at all. This is just to listen and learn and ask questions. So with that, I just want to turn it over to Pilar. Steve, would you like to say any comments at all? Sure. Name and address for the record.
They always get me on that. Stephen Connolly, 44 Duncan Avenue. That was an awesome entrance. Actually, that was kind of what I was going to say. That was Pequannock style.
Right.
It was great. I don't have a helmet. One thing I want to mention, through the process, I talked to a lot of builders, a lot of designers, and there was one that stood out, and it was Brad, because he spent a lot of time with me on the phone, talked very specifics. I was really impressed, and I was really, really psyched when the bids came in and his was the lowest. I mean, I was like, yes, because everything he knows about the industry with builders, designers, from what we talked about with him, just blew me away. So with that, Brad.
All right. My name is Brad Sedlecki. I'm the owner of Pillar Design Studios, based out of Phoenix, Arizona. I've got well over 400 parks under my belt in the last 16 years. I am a skateboarder. I've been skateboarding since I was 10 years old. And I took my love of skateboarding to me with college through my education. I have a degree in architectural engineering and a degree in landscape architecture. And then I have 15 years of construction under my belt also. So one of the main things that I want to show you today is I want to show you what has come from the discussions we've had with the community, with everybody that's involved, after looking at the site, working with Wayne over here, who is our engineer on record for the project, who's going to help us get through all the permitting and all the floodplain stuff. So what we'll get into is, does everyone know where the skate park is? Steve, you want to give everybody kind of a roundabout? I think they all know. Everyone knows? Sometimes I have to do it.
Here's it.
I think that's good.
Let me see what the answer is. Not in your flood zone, all right. All right, so, park location. We'll get into a little bit specifics of the actual skate park itself, but it's right off the corner of, what is it, Crossroads?
Jefferson and Newark Thompson.
Okay, perfect. So the idea is that we're going to be right off of the entry road coming into the park. This is a very, underutilized. There's nothing going on over there. It is in flood zone. It's an area that we can, what I like to call the diamond in the rough. So we're going to take this piece of property. There's nothing going on over there, and we are going to make it the busiest, most used facility in the town. Did I see a hand question? All right, so here's the idea. We still have time to tweak, but based on conversations that we've had going back and forth in the public facilitation process, this is the idea. We built this park above ground.
Excuse me, Brad, before you go any further, Dave, there's a bunch of people out there. If they want to come in and stand behind us
So they can see.
so they can see.
Pack it in here.
Everybody in. No sense of being out in the hallway if you can't see.
Why don't you come over, come up
You
over
want to
here.
stand up in this corner? Go ahead.
At least then you can see. Good idea.
If there's one too many,
For you guys that can't see, I'll put this back up.
Good, you.
about the same.
All right, we ready? All right, so the idea, mini ramp, a couple hits, couple extensions, some flip banks. I know I'm going to speak Greek to a lot of people here that don't ride a skateboard, but that's all right. Everybody that does ride a skateboard understands things I'm talking about. Mini ramp, 2 quarter pipes, back to back, with some flat in between it. What's a quarter pipe? A quarter pipe is a quarter of a circle. So Keep it basic so everybody knows what you're talking about. You got it. A lot of people say that skateboarding is a fad. Skateboarding is going to be in the next Summer Olympics, and it's not going to. If anything, it's only going to grow from here. I just got back from Barbados. We're building the first park on the island for the government. And their main goal, what they want to do is they want to be able to have a Bayesian skateboarder in the Olympics in 2 years. That's what they're going for. So skateboarding isn't going anywhere. It's on a big push right now. And this is all for the positive. It's all for the kids. Keep people moving. So, one of the main things that we've got here, guys, is we've got a huge contingency of donations. We've got a stack of stuff that the local skateboarders got donated. How long ago, Steve? 10 years ago? 2.5 to 3. Anyway, some of the pieces that were donated are all pieces that we have incorporated into the design itself to help mitigate cost, to bring our costs down. So we are reusing what has been already donated. So we'll have some custom granite pieces in this park.
So let me ask you a question, I'm sorry. So without those pieces donated, this would cost even more?
Correct.
Unbelievable.
Correct. Estimated budget, just under $400,000.
How much again? What was it?
Estimated is under $400,000.
Mike, if you want to stand behind here, come on back up here if you want to see it.
This is the engineer's estimate. When we put this out to bid, bids come in lower or higher. It all depends on cost at the time of bid. Project size, overall, with all of the stormwater, all of the permitting, all the flood stuff, we're right around 14,000 square feet in space that we're going to improve upon. Actual skate park size, skatable concrete, is 6,500 square feet. With all this being said, with this cost, this is a turnkey cost. And there are plenty of opportunities for us to be able to bring that cost down with local in-kind donations. For example, we are building this skate park up, so we need to have dirt to do that. Having dirt donated brings our ultimate cost down. Other things, placing that in this situation here, because we're in a flood zone, because we've done our due diligence and we've done geotech reports, we know what the soils are. We're going to be coming in, we're going to be digging down 2 feet from the entire size of the skate park, all 6,500 square feet, removing that organic soil and replacing it with engineered soil that can compact to a 95% compaction rate. And then we'll be putting a geomat down to help with the settling differential. We're covering that with stone, and then ultimately building our skate park on top of that. So there is no settling. So this is located in a 100-year flood zone. And I'm going to walk you guys through a little bit of the process of the engineering aspect of that. I've got Wayne here to also help answer any questions, because this is what Wayne specializes in. The whole idea of what we're trying to do here, guys, is in a flood zone is we're trying to make sure that whatever we're going to add into this area, we're taking away. For example, if you're gonna, so if we're gonna bring in 6,500 square feet of concrete, so maybe let's just say that's 100 cubic yards of concrete, and you then take 100 cubic yards of dirt off of the site. So when the floods do come in, there's no change in the actual flood.
Okay, but dirt and concrete are two different things.
Correct. But what we're doing is we are going to be taking that, we're going to be taking all of our water off of the skate park, directing it into the storm sewers that are already there. So yes, we are adding 6,500 square feet of non-pervious.
Storm sewers?
The storm sewers, the existing sewers, the existing.
You know what happens when it floods here? The water backs up into those storm sewers. You're aware of that, right?
So the idea, yes. So the idea is that when the water does come up, what we're designing, what we're building, is ultimately going to improve in this situation. It's not going to make it worse. Wayne, am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, so the first question, taking out 100 yards of dirt, bringing in 100 yards of concrete, in terms of a flood impact, the point is that you're balancing what you're bringing in with what you're bringing out. The surface doesn't matter. It's volumetrically, are you adding or are you subtracting? So as far as the state is concerned, when we make applications to DEP, all we have to show is that we're reducing the amount of volume. We're staying the same or less to create more flood storage on the site than what exists today. In terms of what we're doing with the water, we've designed a bio basin on the low side of the system, which is going to take the runoff from the area. So it's not like it's directly going into a storm sewer. It's being sent to an area which we can try and infiltrate some of that water. But in a flood event, it's all kind of a moot point. It doesn't matter whether your surface is grass. It doesn't matter whether it's concrete. It's floodwaters from the river that are coming in and coming to a certain elevation. So, once you get over a certain size storm where, that's a real concern, you're past the point that your infiltration measures matter.
So to keep moving with that, one of the questions that's been asked of me multiple times is, have I ever built a skate park in a flood zone? And the answer is yes, 100%. Yes, we have. Not only have I built skate parks in 100-year flood zones, but I built skate parks that flood 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. So we have the process of what we're trying to do here. We have done in the past, and that has been successful. Here's just here's a quick view of some of the parks that we have done that hit into those flood zone ideas.
What's the concern of the flood zone? Like, what does it matter? I mean, it floods everywhere. So what?
Excuse me, we'll take questions if we can just get through the presentation.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Almost done. So, one project that I want to bring up in particular is a current project that I have. The 2 lower photos were taken this morning. This is a 7,000 square foot skate park that we're building in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. On the left, you can see the Atlantic Ocean. On the right, bottom right, you can see the Sound. This part will flood 5 to 6 times a year, period. We are constructing this park the same exact way as we would construct this skate park.
Does it freeze down there? Yes or no? No.
Yeah, sure.
You get a hard freeze down there?
But the weather is different in the Northeast.
Somebody's asking, what's the frost level there?
I'd have to ask what the frost level. Do not know what the frost level
Guaranteed
is.
somewhere in 6 inches.
So we over excavated. We brought in engineered soil. We laid our geomat, and we built the skate park up on top of this. Same process of what we want to do here. So we have experience with this type of stuff. And you asked about the flood, about freeze and thaw. Top right, Bar Harbor, Maine. Project we built last summer. It gets cold up there. We did the exact same thing that we're talking about doing here. That's 4,000 square feet. We over-excavated.
Is that in a flood zone?
That is on an island. Zero water
It's not
table.
a flood zone.
The whole thing floods. The whole area floods.
Check the map. And I
Okay.
It floods.
I stood up there with water up to my knees. So, same idea. Same idea. Where we over-excavated. Brought in the soil, put our geomat down our stone, and we built the skate park on top of it. So that is pretty much the end of my presentation. Now we can have questions.
Well, the way I'd like to do this, I'd rather have council ask their questions first, and then we'll go on to the public comment.
Okay.
All right? So I guess we'll start. I'd like to start with questions, I guess, with Councilman Hurd first.
Okay. Do we have a time limit on questions? Because I've got a lot of questions.
As long as you don't ask the same one twice.
Okay. All right, so who do we have here? Steve? We have Wayne, engineer. Do we have anybody from town? Other than us and them? Employees. I guess I can ask you, Dave. All right. All right, so let's start with flood. So you're telling me that this is not going to affect the floodplain. So no disrespect, Steve. I'm going to ask the engineer. Brett, sorry. Brett, Steve. Yeah, Brett. I'm keeping you all. Wayne, did I get that right? All right, so Wayne. Based on the floodplain, we're going to put this that's in our floodplain. We do have a flooding issue in the township of Pequannock. We've been flooded a lot of times. Is this going to positively or negatively affect exactly where it's going?
If anything, I mean, from a practical perspective, no impact. But if I had to pick a side, I'd say slight improvement, because the ultimate plan is to create 500 cubic yards of additional flood storage through removal of material in the flood level on the site. And that's something that's going to be verified by the DEP as part of the application. We cannot create fill in floodplain, period. We'll not get a permit. So. And
that also includes the retention of your first inch of water, correct?
Correct.
Going through DEP.
You can see on the low side there is a small basin. Again, it will have no effect in a large storm when the whole area is inundated, but in smaller storms, when you don't have that sort of flooding, it's going to improve the conditions because it's going to be taking that smaller runoff and storing all of it in the basin.
So can you guarantee that the house that's closest to where we're considering doing this will not have a centimeter more water than they would have if this didn't even exist?
Yes, that is the purpose of the regulations, is to make sure that that's the case.
Okay. And has the research been done to identify how this may or may not affect flooding? So I understand that you have built in the flood zone, but specifically, my questions, I just care about Pequannock. So has the research been done that this will not affect flooding? And I mean from the bores, from the type of material that it's sitting on, everything like that.
So as I mentioned, in larger storms when the area is flooding, the surface material that you put down becomes irrelevant, because it's all underwater, whether it's grass, whether it's wood, whether it's concrete, whether it's a building. So, our analysis basically goes into...
Excuse me. Could you use the mic so everybody could hear? Thank you.
So what the analysis goes into is to basically make sure that we, again, in the same area in which we're working, we're creating a net decrease in material, thereby increasing the flood storage. So the analysis that the DEP asks you to do is, on this property at this particular location, are we a net negative in terms of our impact to the flood volume? And that's what the DEP is going to verify. Really, there's not much other analysis that goes into it, because we're not doing anything to alter the flow of the flood path. We're not in the floodway. We're not really adjacent to the river in such a way that we're going to have any impact on the way the water flows. It's basically just slow-moving water that's coming out of the river and filling the lower areas. So
this will not block water?
No, not at all. It's being built into the landforms that are going to be there. There's nothing that's going to barricade water in any way. All the fixtures will be fixed and attached. There's nothing here that's going to, pick up and float away downstream. Nothing like that.
I don't know if this is a good question for you or Dave. So a lot of questions come up where, quite frankly, how can we build this in the floodplain, but a resident can't build a 300 square foot structure or put a 10 by 10 shed on their property, but we can dump 6,500 square feet of concrete next to the Washington Park?
The FEMA regulations are designed to limit FEMA's liability when it comes to paying flood claims. That is, the entire basis of FEMA NFIP is all about flood claims and the payout that the federal government has after each flood. The NFIP has been in a negative cash position for the better part of the last 20 years. So their regulations are intended to create less insurable risk. there is no insurable risk with parkland.
So FEMA is talking about liability, and we're talking about residential, as opposed to nobody's ever going to pay out on this if we have a flood.
Correct. And it's not just residential, it's, commercial property too.
Okay. Let's go to engineering. So we did do the soil test, we did the bores?
Yes, we've had geotechnical testing out there, which again, the main purposes were to make sure, A, that we had what kind of permeabilities we had in the soil, and the others were, was the subsurface conditions immediately under the, where the skate park's going to be, was it satisfactory to hold the weights and, everything that's going to be placed on top of it.
Is the boring somewhere on those diagrams?
Not on that plan, there is another diagram that we do have.
I don't know if I actually put the circles in there.
We had a boring log plan.
Who wants to see it? I brought it with. Go. The board,
We are prepared. You guys
I kind of need it up on
Down
there.
there.
So,
Okay, point it out.
I want to know where it is there.
yeah, they did 2 test pits.
B1,
in
B2
October.
You saw this.
are located where we are actually going to be pouring concrete.
So the 2 bores
Yep.
are exactly where we're going to put the skate park. Okay. Are there concerns? So what was brought up, we're in this climate. I know you've built other places and places that are warmer and colder and whatnot, but again, back to Pequannock. What are the concerns as far as, we know we have flooding, but what about freezing and thawing, heaving? How is this 6,500 square foot piece of concrete going to look over 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What's?
Yep. So the way that we engineer the actual, how we build the skate parks, how we put them together, we have saw cuts, we have cold joints, we place these.
Brad, you want to go to the mic so Frank doesn't keep raising his hand in the back?
So the way that we engineer these parks, the way that we.
They can't hear you.
Okay, all right. So the way that we engineer these parks is we have cold joints, we have saw cuts, we try to control the cracking, because concrete, it does crack, period. We have what we call slip dowels that connect the different pores, all of our cold joints, to help with the differential and settling. One of the things we're doing here is we are going to use the geogrid, the geomat, which is a material that we're going to lay out on top of our engineered soil. It will be compacted at a 95% minimum compaction rate. Put the geomat down, and then we're going to put our stone on top of that. The idea of the stone is that any kind of water that does come up from under the ground will then dissipate, so it doesn't get up into the concrete and cause rusting. And with the metal, with the rebar that we have in it, we use number 3 rebar, 12 inches on center throughout the entire skate park. And the geomat is going to be one of the things that's really going to help with the differential and settling. So it's not going to happen.
Right.
We have built parks in Sweden. We have built numerous parks in the Northeast.
And no disrespect, that's
not
great,
Pequannock.
I don't care.
Correct.
I'm talking about Pequannock.
There are no
Let's get
skate
back to
parks. There are no
Pequannock.
skate parks in Pequannock.
Right over Jackson, the Jackson.
But when we're talking about cold weather, and we're talking about frost heaves, and we're talking about 3 to 4 foot
Hard freeze.
we have done that.
So at the end of the day, between flooding and freezing, this isn't going to, A, float up and end up in somebody's yard, or it's not going to sink and be 2 feet underneath the ground.
I don't think it will float, right?
Hey, you never know, they made concrete boats. World War II, thank you.
We've been asked those
So that is correct.
Correct. You are correct in saying that.
Okay. This one's going to be for Dave. Told you, I have a lot of questions, so please bear with me.
That's all right, he's taking all ours, so.
All right, so I'm taking everybody's time, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's fine.
So,
Taking the questions we have.
long-term, upkeep, responsibility. Who's going to deal with this 6,500 square foot piece of concrete? Is it going to be DPW? Is it going to be Rich? Like, who is going to?
Well,
He'll be in Barbados.
under our current structure, all park maintenance is assigned to a division of our DPW. There is a maintenance division that's their sole responsibility, is maintaining all of our parks, including Board of Ed fields.
And this is going to be...
It would be assigned to them.
So I'm going to have a double question here, one for you guys, one for you. Do we have a line item for maintenance? Is it going to cost us more? And then back to you guys, what are the long-term costs, 1 year, 5 year, 10 years out? What can we expect?
Average maintenance costs on a concrete skate park are around $1,000 a year.
What does that entail?
That entails...
filling the cracks.
Yes, so what you'll look for is we'll give you, we can give you some things to look at quarterly, bi-yearly, and yearly of what we're going to be looking for cracks. Because yes, it is concrete. Concrete cracks. It will crack. We will show you how to help control that, and when it does start cracking, how to chase it, fill it with caulk, because this is what we do, is we fill everything so that there is no water that does seep in there, that does get underneath it, that does freeze, and then heave the park. So we're going to seal everything. We're sealing the concrete, we're sealing all the joints, we're good to go.
Do we have to seal the concrete every 5 years or something like that?
You can, but sealing the concrete is a very simple process of it's a spray on. Most of the time, people do not, we seal it when we're done. It's a self-penetrating sealant, and that is it. Most time people do not come back and do it again.
What's the life expectancy? Perfect world, we take care of this thing, fill the cracks, cover it, whatever. What is the life expectancy of something like this?
Parks that I built in '98 are still kicking. So life expectancy is beyond 20, 30, 40 years.
Okay. Let's talk some money. So, your budget, this is based on your expertise and engineering as well, correct?
Yes.
So you're telling me that this is going to be $382,332.10.
What's the 10 cents for?
That's a good question. Maintenance, that's the question.
Speak.
What would be the reason that this would be more than that?
Cost of concrete could go up. Cost of fuel could go up. There's cost of steel could go up. When they built the...
Steel's going up.
Absolutely. When they built the... when China had the Olympics, or when China, a couple years ago, Beijing, steel went through the roof. Concrete went through the roof because they took all of our steel. So there was a shortage of it. Cost of skate parks went up because of that. So there's things that are definitely out of our control, what that cost will be. In today's market, this is my engineered estimate. A year down the road, could be the same, it could be cheaper.
Okay, steel is not going to be cheaper.
I'm just saying, in today's market, that is the engineered estimate.
So Dave, you've taken a look at this and you've done a lot of projects into it. Barring what they're telling us, is this a realistic number based on what you're looking at?
Again, based on today's conditions, yes.
Okay.
Aside from cost of raw materials, it's also, we've seen projects vary widely based on when you go to bid, how much, demand there is for labor. So, I mean, there are a lot of variables.
Okay.
If my crew was to come in, my company was to come in today, put a bid on this and build it, I could do it for that number.
Have we researched grants? Any other way of offsetting? I know we talked about in-kind donations. I know there is a not-for-profit setup, but the township, are there any grants that we can go after to offset this cost?
When we first started talking about this, we looked for grants and found none that we qualify for based on Pequannock's socioeconomic conditions.
So it's not like an open space grantable project or...
Right.
Okay. Taxes. I live on Tilly. How much is my taxes going to go up for this?
Well, the taxes are a function of total municipal budget, which council is currently in the middle of. They may go up nothing as a result of this, or they may go up something as a result of many other factors. That is still for council to decide.
So basically, relative to how many projects we have going on, or we're
The
making
current-
investments every year?
Correct. Currently, we spend, the township does, about $1.5 million on capital projects every year. And you go through, council goes through a process of ranking, prioritizing those projects each year as to which ones get funded and not funded, which ones get, moved to the front of the list for current year and moved down the line. Over many, many years, public safety has always been a priority. So, fire trucks and ambulances always have gotten funded, my experience.
That we've done for the last 8 years with no new debt.
Exactly.
Road resurfacing is something that gets done annually. We replace all of our vehicles and, on a rotation on an annual basis. We have replacement schedules for all of our major capital items that we are part of that $1.5 million program. Among that is maintaining our facilities, buildings, parks, and, we do some of that too. All of those things net out to an annual capital program. If the council determines to maintain the same capital structure that you have for the past, 10, 15, 20 years, there should be zero impact to taxes because the tax rate already accounts for that level of capital spending.
So a certain amount of improvements year over year.
It's not how much, it's not that a project makes taxes go up. It's what priorities rank highest in terms of the overall game plan of where you want to be
as a town.
Correct.
So that money could be used for something else versus that.
But it can't be used for, obviously there's an issue with schools and keeping schools safe, we can't use that. So just to clarify, so when I look at my tax bill with a smile on my face, I'm kidding. How much of my tax bill is the township? In percentage-wise?
Just under 25%.
So 25% of my tax bill is municipality.
Correct.
Do you have any idea how much school is? About 60, 65-ish?
63, I think.
63% of the tax bill is associated with school.
Right.
And then the balance goes to federal and state.
County.
County and open space.
Okay, so about 25% of your tax bill is what we deal with for fire, EMS, police, road servicing, plowing, picking up garbage, and every other thing that I can think of.
Correct.
Okay. Here's a question for you guys. What can bite me in the bum? What are the what are the things we're not considering? I mean, we're not skateboard park builder people. So what are the things that can spiral out of control? What are the things that can bite me in the butt? What are the things that we're not considering?
Oh, before you answer that, Brad, did you have a copy of our GIF and what was required for that?
Yes.
I'm even getting to that one.
Okay. And
We won't have anything.
it's my understanding that a fence and lighting was needed. Are they included in this $382,000?
No,
Why not?
because I was asked of me to not include that in the cost.
But it's something that's definitely needed for this park.
Not true, Dave. Lights are not necessary.
That's only if you're open after dark.
Wait a
If we
second.
make the decision.
You can't tell me that lights are not necessary, because if a police officer rides by there and there's no lights at all on that park, someone can be out there at 12 o'clock at night doing whatever they want in that park. Of course you're gonna want lights shining on that park, some sort of light. I'm not talking about baseball lights or football lights. I'm talking about just simple 8-foot lights.
Yeah, we understand you don't need them for that, but you need them to.
You're gonna need at least 6 to 8 8-foot posts around that park. So there's some sort of illumination on that park, correct?
I think where the issue here is we're talking a lot of money, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not willing to spend this kind of money.
Well, I don't think we're even to that point yet.
We're at that point.
What the issue is I really want to know what the park is going to cost, and without those costs in, we're not really getting a flavor of what it's costing us.
Right.
And that is a problem, because if the cost far outweighs the benefit, we can't do it, but we need to know the whole cost.
Well, I would think that I would let Councilman Hurd finish his questions, then we'll move on down the line. Let's stay organized.
Well, I do have questions about JIF. I can go to insurance right away. So, under the JIF, there has been questions about what's needed. So, fencing is needed because we have to close it off. There's been questions about lights, bathrooms, water fountains, etc. There's even been questions does our insurance even cover skate parks? Now, I physically called and I talked to Melissa from Morris County. She's in charge of that. But again, I want to make sure...
Somewhere in writing.
Right. That it is correct.
Phone. Right.
So...
Yes.
Is our insurance going to go up? Is it covered by insurance? Do we have to do bathrooms? I know we have to do fence.
Fence is
They don't want
required,
to share them.
and there's a, it
don't want
was
to share.
distributed probably before you were even on council, to council, the
what's been
summary
said.
from our insurance fund of what is required to have a skate park covered by insurance, which, frankly is no different than their insurance has requirements for everything that we insure. To have employer's liability, we have to have a personnel handbook that has to have certain policies. Our DPW workers have to go through certain training to be insured. So, this is not...
So it's not out of there. If we want to do this, there's a certain...
In order to
thing that
have
we
insurance,
do,
you have to meet
and then
certain minimum requirements. Those requirements are, published. They were, Brad has had them in terms of the design. And, there are some policy things that council will need to consider, which, we haven't looked at yet because we haven't got to the point. There's no point in setting policy for a park that doesn't exist.
Right. And policy would be things like, all of our parks technically close at dark because they don't have lights. So back to Councilman Cole, like Greenwood Park, Greenwood Park, Greenview, kids can go in there and play on the play set and it's dark and they can fall and hurt themselves, but the reality is we don't have lights there.
Correct.
But we do have lights, Washington 1, 2, and 3 for baseball
And we
at
have
night.
special rules for the time for Washington. So, yes, but the rules about timing and, what we do in terms of security lighting is all to be decided, yes.
Okay. Last couple of questions, I'll go through quick. I know everybody wants to ask theirs. So now let's talk about use in police. So the police are going to be driving past this. Is there an increased cost because now we have a skate park from police? Is there a line item in the budget that police need more money or more manpower because we have a skate park?
I would not anticipate that, no. The police, as part of their routine function, patrol all of our streets, all of our parks. In addition, we have, a park ranger program designed to specifically patrol the parks.
So we don't believe that it's going to change anything?
No.
When we're talking about skaters, there seems to be a perception that number one, it's male-dominated, that these guys are derelicts, they've got tattoos, they're doing crazy things, graffiti, everything else. How are we going to make sure that we don't have issues? We have opioid abuse like any other town. How do we make sure that we don't have any negative stuff?
Well, we're never going to avoid all negative stuff because we have graffiti occur on baseball fields occasionally. We respond to that. The police investigate it to the extent that we can, catch a perpetrator. We can and will. There are now much better ways of securing areas like this, which the township is investing money in terms of video and things like that. I wouldn't say that we would put video on this as opposed to any other thing, but over the course of time, I think we're going to have more eyes on all of our public locations, because that's just the state of affairs that we're in 2018.
This project has been designed with the intent that a police officer could drive down that road without getting out of his vehicle and have it
Take a look at it.
And have a clean sight line and see the entire skate park. There are no hidden corners.
One last,
Don't police cars have...
two little last questions. With all the space in town that we have, Greenview, PV Park, Washington, is there a better place for this? I know Greenview still is in the floodplain in the back because of the east ditch. Is this the best place for this park, considering 7 square miles?
Considering the limited amount of space that Pequannock Township owns, the committee kind of went through this process. Each location had pros and cons, and this location had the highest number of pros compared to the number of cons.
Overall.
And I'll re-emphasize that the vast majority of our parks are located in floodplain, because that is a good use of floodplain.
So that's the best use for that kind of property that the town owns. And the last thing, which was really interesting, and you had alluded to it, you'd said something about it, and I did look it up, which was interesting. So on August 4th, 2016, the International Olympic Committee voted unanimously to include skateboarding in the 2020 Summer Games in Tokyo. Skateboarding is one of the 5 sports that have been added to the Olympic program alongside sport climbing, karate, baseball, softball, and surfing. So that was interesting because there is talk about skateboarding dying, but then you have the Olympic Committee adding it to the games. Interesting note. Other than that, that's all I got.
All right. Councilman Bailey?
I gotta wait for the clapping to stop.
Okay.
How much have we invested into this so far, Dave? 150? Or put aside, I'm sorry, that's not the right word.
Yeah, we haven't spent, yeah.
25.
Put aside, 150, correct.
Where did the 25,000 come out of, the 150? Or was that something else?
That was the previous year for design.
Okay, so we have put 150,000, we have earmarked $150,000.
This year.
No, we
prior year.
2017.
We did it in 2017.
Right.
We earmarked $150,000. I'm looking at the budget, the proposed budget that you put out, and you have $250,000 for funding in this year's budget that the council has to vote on.
But we also added to that 25,000 for the boring. I think it was 3,500.
Okay. But
Just for transparency, we want to make sure that everything is...
But that's not where I'm going with this conversation, okay? I personally will not vote for any more money for this skate park, period. There's got to be in-kind... That's all I have to say. You asked her all the other questions. So
Well, we haven't had that discussion yet, so.
Well, we
Do you have any other questions? No, we didn't. No, we didn't have any in-kind.
Why don't we go down the line and ask?
Yeah.
I'm saying, do you have any other questions?
I don't have any, I just made a statement, not a question.
Okay.
Want me to go with a couple
Sure.
of my questions? So, Ryan, you did a good job at hitting all the questions, but there's a few more I can ask, I guess. You had made a statement before about the cost of materials that could possibly drive the project. Is there anything else besides cost of materials that could change it, or is it all based on materials? I mean, in other words, what we're doing with correcting the floodplain and stuff like that.
I mean, the other piece is labor.
Right, labor, okay.
And prevailing wage here is not cheap. It is not cheap, and this is the reason why this skate park is much more expensive for the size than if you could build it anywhere else. But we're talking about Pequannock. So if prevailing wage rates go up, that is something that we cannot control. Labor costs go up, cost for everything goes up.
And I'm sorry, did you say, have you ever done one in New Jersey?
I have never.
You have never done one in New
my
Jersey?
company, no. But there are
Welcome.
concrete skate parks in New Jersey.
You know, and I think that's why we don't see a lot in the Northeast, like between the weather elements and the cost and the prevailing wage, we get it.
There's plenty in the north. There's plenty in the Northeast.
Yeah,
I'm going up to Framingham, Massachusetts tomorrow to do a final walkthrough for a project we just completed.
Well, New Jersey is the worst. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, and Ryan alluded to it, if we had picked another location within the town that was not in a floodplain, what can you expect the cost difference to be if that was the only issue. In other words, if we had decided to put it behind Town Hall, which was discussed years ago, just as an example, can you kind of tell me?
If the soils are all conducive and we didn't have to over-excavate and remove any soil, and we were just going to build on a clean site that is good, has good fill, we'd probably be saving somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000.
So that was the difference, about 35 to 40. Okay. All right, well, I think Ryan hit on all the other questions. I don't know if Dave has any, but I'll just make a statement as well, what I said before. I know we have a lot of discussion to do yet. I just feel that this cost is outweighing the benefit, although I really, I really applaud everyone who's worked so hard on this, and I just feel like there might be a better fit, but there's more to come on that. I mean, I feel like we're done. There might be a better solution to this. It's great. I applaud everyone who's worked so hard, and to find an outlet for these children, I just don't know if this is the right project, because I don't see a lot of skateboarders. But we'll have to have more discussion about it and see if this is something we want to move forward on. But
Do the skateboarders want to stand up real quick?
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
All the skateboarders because...
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me.
should all be vetted.
You're all out of line right now. Excuse me.
Look, I didn't mean to start a stir.
Sorry, I'm
This is a great project, and Councilman Phelan brought up my concern as well. We've put in about as much money as I would approve, so hopefully, if we move forward with it, there can be a lot of fundraising done to get to the other half.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Councilman Cole?
All right. Are all the granite pieces that are secured, are they part of this, or you're only using a limited number of them, or?
Nope. Everything that has been donated, we are using.
Okay. Dave, I was also under the impression that we weren't going to DEP. Is that true, or?
The permitting, the
For a
DEP.
permit?
We would have to.
Something about some 25 code or something like that I read, and
Okay, I think there are some permits that are going to need to...
are we going to DEP for the permit, or no?
Well, yeah, they're the ones who...
Okay, so we are going to get permits for this?
Yes.
Why wouldn't we?
All right.
I don't know how you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So does the township have to get permits for everything? I mean, if we do something?
Just select.
All right, so Brad, getting back to the GIF, if you were to guess how much lighting and fencing would cost, being that you've done...
Lighting could range from $8,000 to $100,000, depending on what kind of lights you
And
guys...
I'm not talking about lights that you're going to be able to skate in the dark and, just normal...
If we're talking about one simple security light at the entrance of the skate park, I mean, that could be $8,000.
All right, how about fencing?
Fencing, again, depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for 3-foot tall chain link fence...
Well, I think the GIF said something about an 8-foot fence.
8 feet. I think that cost was... Off the top of my head, I cannot tell you that, but I could say $15,000.
It's about
You-
20.
I have a question to follow up with that.
I guess.
Oh, let Dave finish with his
All right,
question.
you also said there's no hidden locations. What about these bowls? I mean, are they deep enough that somebody could be in there? and
There are
somebody
no
could-
bowls.
There are no bowls?
Nope, everything is above ground. Nothing goes below ground here.
So there's no...
There-
Okay, so can anybody hide in one of those and not be seen?
The way that this is designed is that from the road, you can see everywhere in the skate park.
Okay.
Except for behind the skate park, correct?
Well,
The top elevation
you
of
can go-
the skate park is 184, and the finished grade is 179 in the back.
You could also go hide behind the tree.
And just to comment to Ryan's, the safety of our kids in the school, it is an importance. And it's not that we couldn't do anything as a town. We could hire an additional 2 police officers and dedicate them to schools from 9 to 4, or from 8 to 4.
But that would not come out of our budget.
Well, if we wanted to, as a town, we could do that.
Then we would charge the Board of Ed.
Well, I'm just saying, we could, as a town, provide that service for the safety of our children. Bathrooms, Dave, I know we have bathrooms there. What's going on with the bathrooms? Are they going to be allowed to be used? They're not going to be allowed to be used? I'm hearing conflicting stories.
Yeah, I heard that the Little League didn't want to share them.
We have bathrooms at that site, and we can make them available, whatever the policy, governing body is.
Are they public?
I don't know of any reason why we wouldn't use them. They're already there.
Okay, so we would have to heat them then, because they're winterized now?
They're winterized in the winter, and if they're going to use it during the winter.
Currently, there's there's very little use to that park, so yes, we winterize the bathrooms so we don't have to maintain them all winter.
But is there heat there now, or that's something that we would have to put in?
I don't know about bathrooms in particular, but that building is heated.
That's about all I have, because Ryan asked a whole bunch of questions, so.
Sorry about that.
So before we move to, do you want to follow up on something Councilman Hurd, or no?
It was just a little question. Do you have any idea of fencing? I know it's got to be 8 foot high. Any idea on linear feet?
I want to say 400 linear feet. For some reason, that's the number that sticks out in my head. And that was with an offset.
It's got to be 5 feet off the park or something like that?
Yeah, I think I even had it farther off. Because in my mind, what we're trying to do here, as a skateboarder, is the last thing that I want is, to be kicked off of the streets of an open park and be put in a cage. So, as a designer and as a skateboarder, I always prefer to have that fence offset as far as possible so that we can create some internal green space for the for the skateboarder and for the non-skateboarder. So when you're not skating, you can step off the skate surface.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want a chain link fence the way it is.
There are plenty of parks that do have it right up. I'm not a big fan of having up against it, but.
So before we switch gears and go into public comment, I have one last question that wasn't mentioned, is I've heard people about how much noise comes from a concrete park like this. What about the noise of the residents, of the wheels hitting the concrete?
The decibels are lower than any kind of ball field, soccer, baseball, any kind of hockey rink or anything like that. So it's less. It's less than an above ground steel park, an above ground wood park. It's the quietest of skate parks.
Okay.
Now, granted, you are adding people. People bring noise.
That's where the noise can come from.
It is less than a ball field.
Okay. Well, it's just that, it's a residential kind of area, and just, there was concerns about noise, and I didn't hear anybody bring up about the noise, so I just wanted to ask about that. Right now, we're going to change the order of the agenda somewhat, and we're going to take public comments at this time. The public comment period will limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional public comment will be reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Please, there's a lot of people here. We're not going to get through everybody who has something to say, so we're going to do this in an orderly fashion. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. There's a lot of people here who we don't recognize, so there's a paper there. If you can put down your name and address, just so that when we have it recorded in our minutes, we'll spell your name appropriately and correctly. We don't want to insult anybody. Joe?
Limited to townspeople only?
No, it's a public forum.
So they'll identify the town?
Yeah, they'll have to identify their town.
Yeah, you'll have to identify where you're from.
Why would we open to people from town?
Because legally, we have to open it to people from other towns, so there's no point in discussing it.
So
The
why
Open
don't we-
Public Meetings Law requires that we listen to anybody who wishes to speak.
So why don't we ask the
That's why.
townspeople to speak first, and then the other people be courteous, and...
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe Jorgensen, 14 Meyer Place, Pompton Plains. Now, do I have a limit of how long I'm talking up here?
3 minutes?
It's
Now, is that 3 minutes of my talking or 3 minutes total?
If you go 4 to 5, it's okay,
well,
but be
my
courteous to others.
First question, I'm going to hit on a few things as quick as I can. What year did you say that this started to start to play?
2015, October 2015.
So the prior 7 years of discussion of this isn't counted in this. In 2008, you came before council
Yes.
to have a skateboard park.
Yes.
And there was a lot of discussion about it at that point.
Yes.
It came down to the location. The council, I think, Jay, how much did we fund for fencing? 25,000? Council at that time said that they would pay $40,000 for the fencing around the park. The rest would have to be raised by fundraising.
I don't think it ever went in the budget, but I think you did earmark it somewhere.
Well, I tend to disagree with that. I think it did go into the budget. The one site that came up was right behind the police station here, close to first aid, close to the police, and after a lot of discussion, the police didn't want to babysit this park, and it was not pushed to another location. Why you picked the location you did, I don't know how much homework you've done, but that used to be the town dump. All the materials from Pequannock School, where the post office is, to Pompton Plains School, and the other schools used to dump there. They used to take truckloads of fluorescent bulbs, lead paint, cans, furniture, all kinds of stuff was dumped down there. So my question to Dave is, when was that site remediated?
I don't remember the year, Joe.
Well, that's because I brought this up when I was on council, and I could never get any documentation. So I think our remediation was the DPW going in there and dumping dirt and pushing stuff around. My other question is, you did test bores. Was the soil tested for contaminants?
No, that wasn't the purpose of the...
Well, see, we had a presentation here, which is, for somebody that built 400 skate parks, I think was extremely vague, and it was a lot of opinion and not a lot of facts. We discussed this stuff back when I was on council. We went around in circles on a lot of this stuff. I could never get documentation of when that site was remediated. You know, whether the state remediated it or not. There's hazardous materials dumped there. There's lead, there's ballasts from the fluorescent lighting. There was anything went back in the 70s when they dumped. The water table is probably 5 feet over there in that corner, and it's been filled in because that was a marsh and it was filled in. So you're saying you're going to dig out 2 feet of dirt and get down to a surface that you're going to build on is ludicrous. You're going to have a maintenance problem building on a site that was filled in, and there's been stuff all over the time in there. There's no proof that anything's been remediated in there. There's 2 test bores. That doesn't mean anything. You know, that doesn't mean anything.
So, Joe, so it's not sitting on solid ground?
No, it's not sitting on solid ground because I hung out down there when I was a kid. I know what it used to look like. And you can see the Phragmites growing around the site. What that proves is the water table is probably 5 feet right there, if not higher. Right, Joe? You can tell by the plant life of what's in there, but that whole area has been filled in over the years because those Phragmites used to go almost all the way up to Washington Park, and that's why back then is when the town would find areas that they couldn't build on and they would dump junk in. The same way...
Is that the same area where the fields are too, and where we refurbished the field by the animal shelters? Is that the same?
All that stuff was disturbed soil.
So even where we're redoing, where we're doing the field right now?
Yeah, that stuff, and that's why I don't know why anybody didn't test the soil. First thing we did when we put the community garden in over where it did was I had Dave have the soil tested for contaminants before we started any planning. You've spent how much money on this project already?
$25,000, $30,000?
$25,000. And was any of these concerns brought up prior to this?
Well, we're already putting field there too. We're already...
Yeah, I know. Well, we started the field back when I was on council. That's what we wanted to see, was the fields in there.
Joe, these are all legitimate concerns.
Yeah, but we're doing the field right now in the city.
Because I don't know why you're at this point, and how much did you pay for this presentation?
Joe, can I just respond to the soil testing? We had soil tested multiple times, both since I've been here as manager and immediately before, and we did quite a bit of remediation work, removing a lot of soil in 2010 and 11.
Now, who did the remediation work?
I don't remember the name of the company, but...
So was there any DEP permits for this?
Yes.
You can provide those?
They're all all in my file somewhere, because that's really what held up the development of that flat field for years.
Yeah, well, also all the curbs that you dumped in Woodland Lake held it up too. Where did we get a permit to dump all those curbs in Woodland Lake? Everybody's quiet. Right? Being on council...
When were you on council?
What's that?
When were you on council?
Yeah, and these were concerns.
The question is, when were you on council?
I was on council from 2007 to 2010.
Joe, have they dumped curbs in there in the recent...
When you started to work on that field over by Washington Park, another little layer showed up.
What year would that be?
3 years ago or so.
We dump curbs into...
Yeah, take a ride over by the boat ramp. Dave knows exactly what I'm talking about with this, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, Dave.
I mean, Joe, I think...
I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Those curves have been there a long time, Joe.
Yeah, those are much older than that,
Joe, I
think.
remember you bringing that up our first year on council, so
Yeah,
that
because
must have been right
my
before.
first year on council was, I came in when the curbs were dumped, and everybody was amazed that these curbs showed up over there. And I said, look on Google Earth, go back a few years, and look at that wall that's there, and then look at the current picture, and tell me there's not a difference. I went down there when I was on council, and I counted.
Your first year on council that you asked that?
No.
Probably second or third year or so. No, this is when the second round of them showed up. I tried to get the curbs out of there when I was on council, and I was stated all the DEP permits you need, you can't disturb any brush around there. I was given a litany of excuses why they couldn't do it. And then as soon as I'm off council, they had to get the curbs out of Washington Park, another layer of them showed up. So the town kind of does what the town wants to do. I think that's what you stated to me, Dave. You know, so, and when you bring up a lot of tough questions, you get a reputation for being a pain in the neck and being a liar and everything else. And that's part of the job of being on council, and I put up with that stuff. I always stuck to the facts. I didn't stick to the opinion. I always looked for the better of the town. And to get to this point that you're doing a presentation, spending money on stuff, and haven't addressed the basic questions of this site, you said right at the beginning, this isn't about talking about policy, helmets, fencing, all that stuff. That's the first things that you talk about before you spend the money on a project. You know,
Well, Joe,
you want kids to go in there. This is probably not going to be supervised either.
Joe, we haven't even decided to build a park yet.
I know, but these are the things that you have to work out, and these aren't new to you, Kathy. We discussed these things with you back in 2008, and that's why, how many other half-truths are we told tonight? We're told that in 2015 this project started. It did not start in 2015. It started in 2008, and there was a lot of history and a lot of background to it prior to that, and that seemed to have gone away, because what we pressed at that time was policy. Who's going to be watching this place? Who's going to be controlling that they're not taking BMX bicycles on the site? Who's going to control that they're wearing helmets and their helmets are strapped? You did a presentation out here in the parking lot with those ramps and stuff, and we stood there and watched kids that didn't have helmets on and kids that had the helmets with the straps hanging down. So when it comes down to whether our insurance is going to pay for it or not, that's the first thing you better find out about, and also find out how much your premium is going to go up if somebody has a traumatic brain injury on that site.
All right, Joe. Joe, we have a lot of people...
I understand. I just want
other people to have their chance, too.
I just wanted to get those things out, and I would like to see answers to those questions, too. I want to see documentation of where it was. And the other thing, you're asking, what kind of other hidden costs can turn up when this project's done? What happened to the junior turf field over there? They stripped all the soil into a pile, and then they found out it was contaminated, and then there was a big price increase in the cost of this. So are we going to have them start to gather the soil over here and then find out we're going to have to pay $400,000 to get the soil out of there? There's a lot of homework you guys have to do before you start doing presentations that you're going to build a park. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess Bob wants to be next.
He decided.
Did he wait to be recognized?
Yeah, I guess not.
God.
Can you state your name for the record?
Sorry, Bob Morley, 4 Jacksonville Road. I'm just going to ask these questions basically so these gentlemen, they can answer or not answer. I don't know how you want to do this. I'll try not to take up too much time. This is the geotech report I was given. I assume it's the same one you guys have. In it, on the one thing you have within 2 feet, you went down 6 inches with 3 blows of a hammer, and then it actually got softer underneath that. The other side's slightly better, but it's still not better. If you were installing sheeting or piling and it went down 6 inches in 1 blow or 2 blows or 3 blows, would you stop there?
I'm not the geotechnical engineer who prepared the report.
No, I'm just asking you though, if you were constructing, you were putting sheeting or piling in, and it went down 6 inches in 3 blows, is that where you would stop?
It would be very soft. It would depend on...
It would be really soft,
very
yes.
different thing than what you're...
No, but the reason...
Can you stand up?
Who's answering that question?
Yeah, watch your head. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure we knew who he was talking to.
Okay, well, the reason I'm asking that question is you were saying you're going to bring in the compactable soil, which is wonderful, but you have to compact it against something. The soil according to these reports, the soil from 2 feet down to 8 feet, and at 8 feet even below, is even less compactable. That's these reports. You have areas where you're going down 6 inches with 1 blow. That's basically sand. Actually, yes. Also, it says in here, in the area that you're going to be compacting it against, assuming you can get the compaction, is very heavily organic. So, let me ask you, just what's going to happen, assuming you can get the compaction with the organics, when the organics decay and you have air voids?
Again, I'm not the geotechnical engineer who prepared the report and made recommendations on how we should design the subsurface.
But theoretically, what would happen? You would have air voids and things underneath them would shift.
Not specifically my expertise.
Okay, well, but just humor me then. There's a very good chance that the area would shift underneath it. There'd be big holes, and the holes would expand, and they'd get a little bigger, and the area of support underneath it would fall apart, and the concrete above it would start to shift underneath. Because organic materials decay.
It's the same soils that are in the surrounding area that roads are built on.
No, it actually isn't. It actually isn't. This is the area where they spent, I don't know how many years putting dump and trees and everything else in it. It's not.
I'm not aware of that.
And if you would like, I would suggest you take a ride down to Jefferson Road in the daylight. They had just paved and put in another inlet about 3 years ago, and you'll be replacing that inlet, I guess, within the next probably 5 or 6 years, and probably repaving that road probably in the next 5 or 10 years. So anyway, another question. The GEO report indicates the need for ENLP to be retained to inspect the soils and verify the suitability of the prepared foundation floor subgrades. Is this work part of the existing contract, or will it be done at an additional cost? If it's an additional cost, what's the estimate for those costs?
I'm not sure if it is or is not, and I wouldn't have an estimate of that because if it's not included, because we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. The report also needs the construction roads. They're very good suggestions. Construction roads. There's also, not added in there, but a lot of environmental issues that would be needed. Silt fencing, concrete clean out, and things like that. I didn't see any of those addressed in the estimate.
That's all.
I didn't see it addressed in the estimate, so.
We can't see you down there either.
I didn't say how it was addressed in the estimate.
It's all included in the estimate.
I didn't see the line item, so.
I didn't break out everything. I wasn't asked to break out everything.
But that brings me to, how many estimates have you done for public projects in New Jersey?
How many have I done in New Jersey?
Public projects in New Jersey.
I've done this one.
Okay. Because the breakdown of your estimate is very odd for a public project in New Jersey. It's the breakdown for prevailing wage rates and anyway. So you're not the geotechnical engineer, okay? So I'm going to ask anyway. Your estimate, however, is based on removal of 2 feet of soil.
Correct.
If you had to remove, say, 8 feet of soil to get down to something that you could actually compact, would that drive the cost of the estimate up?
Obviously, yes, it would.
Significantly?
Significant.
Okay. Two other questions. There's a question, the contours threw me off on the park drainage. I don't have a north-south arrow, but I guess looking up over, the contours show that the area just to your side of the paw print there, it appears that now that water drains in that direction, and that park will be preventing that water from draining. Will that water be puddling?
Water would be coming from here.
Well, that's the way the contours show now.
Because the way that this site currently drains is all this stuff back here all comes at this low point.
Well, that's not the contours that were shown on the plans.
Currently, all this is a low point way back here that we're not touching. That's the low point of the entire site.
Now,
all of this water, that was the way this land currently is, all drains this way. That's what we're keeping. All this water currently goes this way. That's what we're keeping.
Now, in the event of a heavy rain, not a flood, but a heavy rain, those areas are significantly large enough to hold the water? Because you're only draining it into that one, I guess it's an E inlet, I'm guessing?
Yeah, this idea here is that this is a depression, sort of 85 well, drain gardens.
We're going to store the water in the basin that we're creating. You know, it's not a drastic difference as you think between lawn surface and concrete. Yes, there's obviously visual runoff, but it's not a massive volume because, again, this is only 6,000 square foot roughly of conversion.
And the last thing, when you were talking about maintenance costs, you didn't mention the additional maintenance costs of keeping that drainage clear. That pipe, that inlet.
I'm sure there's some general maintenance, but, you know.
Like litter and things from that park will build up into that pipe, will build up into the inlet, will they not?
Sure. I'm sure there's maintenance crews going out there today to mow the lawn and do other maintenance in the general area. I wouldn't say it's a significant line item or expense of additional work for, one small pipe job.
And what kind of landscaping is that? I mean, is that special? I mean, can it be cut with a regular lawnmower? Because I don't know. I can't get a depth perception.
It's a seed mix. I mean, you're going to let it grow up to a certain extent on its own.
I can't get a depth perception, so that's what I'm trying to find out.
It's not terribly deep. It's just a couple feet, and it's going to have a seed mix that can grow along.
But you can't tell me for sure that you will have the ability to actually compact your new soil, because the soil underneath it is just rotten. So you don't know for sure that you'd be able to actually compact any of it.
It's also that, I mean, when compaction comes to real concern, we're not building a 20-story building. We're building, yes, we're building a concrete structure, but, we don't have these massive point loads of, thousands of tons on, that need to be well supported. This is a lot lighter of a structure. It's distributed. So our geotechnical engineer believes for the loads, that were required, that the 2-foot replacement compaction of that material will be sufficient.
and somebody has to be out there to make sure it can be compact. And if it doesn't compact, he's still going to sign off on it, though?
That's why we recommended that we be present to oversee some of that, because it's important to the success of the project.
But that's a different cost, though.
I imagine it is, because it was a subsequent proposal to do geotechnical work after the initial project.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Tom. Steve? Rob, you can be next.
All right, Steve Connolly, 44 Duncan Avenue. We're talking about remediation. That's being done at the current field there right now? Or it has been done?
Has.
And you're working on the field now?
Correct.
Right. So the discussion stops there for as far as I can tell. So I'm not looking at you, David, just you're in front of me. So we're talking about these things that are already being done at a field next to where this proposed skate park is going to be, as far as removing some soil, spending money to do that. So from, I think, everybody on that side of the room's perspective is that you're willing to spend time and money on things like that, but you're not willing to spend it on something for kids, for teens, for families, because I have a young one there. That's the perception. So, everyone in this room should kind of think about that. Moving forward, costs. We already are in-kind donations to take down some of this cost here as an association, the nonprofit. We have a very good concrete rate from a local concrete company. We have a reduced price in structural fill from a local fill company. We have all donated steel. This is all in writing. All steel for the coping, the rails, that's all donated, which will bring down costs. Topsoil for finishing, taken care of. We have a donation on that. Pavers that you walk into the skate park, we have a donation for that. Masonry. I've been talking to a local mason who is willing to donate his time to install the pavers. Fencing. I've been talking to a local fencer who's willing to take care of the fencing. And trucking. I've talked to a trucking company that is willing to take care of the trucking of the structural fill from the location to where it is to the location of the proposed park. So these are all what we have done before. We've had a resolution to have a skate park. We've done this before. We've had a design that we could show people that, we're going to have a skate park. So this is all done as, to get the ball rolling. So I'm sure once we have something that we can move forward with, we will get more. And in addition, we've raised $5,000 without, and this is probably since December, thanks for the comments in the back, but tell the kids sitting around, why don't you tell them that, okay? I don't like the comments back there, because it's not really fair to some of these kids sitting around that I know I've seen skating around town. Well, I'm looking at one right now. So we also have $2,000 in pledge money that once you guys move forward, they'll give it to us. So those are all things that we've done before you guys even decided to move forward with this.
That's not included in the 5?
That's not included in the 5, so that's 7 altogether. So we've done that without the green light from you. All right. We've also got all those donations of in-kind from local businesses without your approval of getting this done, without a final design. So I want you to keep that in mind, and I also want you to keep in mind that some of these hurdles and these cute signs.
The rating on Facebook.
I'm not going to go. Social media stuff is. I think everyone here will. There's a lot of childish stuff going on there, and I'm not going to waste time here. But I don't think I've seen any of this when you guys wanted to put in all the baseball fields, soccer fields, basketball court, football field, any of that. I've seen none of that. I haven't seen opposition to when you want to do something like that.
Steve.
And also,
yes, there was. Ask Jackie, where is she?
I'm over here on the floor.
Okay, Jackie, what happened when we tried to put the field in over by you?
Oh, some big mouth came over and tried to stop it.
So we had opposition.
Okay, so you had some opposition, but
so don't say we didn't.
For one of the fields, that was how much money was that field?
Probably 25 or 250,000.
Okay.
Working weekends over Memorial.
Okay.
I want to say it was close to
I wasn't asking you.
And Steve, the football fields, if you're referring to the ones at the high school, that went to vote, so.
Okay, well, there's when we're talking parkland, there's plenty of parkland that, when it comes to money, doesn't get, any, it just gets passed. And I know there's properties that this town purchased in the last couple of years that were way more than this that didn't bat an eye. So when it comes to spending money, think about those things as well. Thanks.
Rob Cascone. Rob Cascone, then you're next.
I don't know where the paper went, but Rob Cascone, 9 4th Street. Just a show of hands, I was in the corner. How many skateboarders are here tonight? Oh, it's just skateboarders. All right. How many snowboarders and skiers are here tonight? Oh, that's a good amount. We have a mountain. Oh, you too, Kathy. I've been against this skate park since 2008 when you brought it up, 2015 when it came up again, and I've always said it is a slippery slope. So there are more skateboarders, more snowboarders and more skiers than skateboarders. We have a mountain. Is the next thing that we're going to do is everyone come to the town and say, make it a ski slope? There are limits to what the government can provide as far as recreation. And time again, you as a council have to balance that. And it's been said tonight from the dais, and it's nice to hear it, the cost outweighs the benefit when it comes to this. Now, Steve wants you to remember all of the things that they have as in-kind contributions promised. I don't know where Steve went. Steve, I honestly don't believe you. And I don't believe you because when you first came before the council in 2015, you said, this will not cost anything. All we need is the land. We will fundraise for everything else.
Rob, I never said that.
That was never said.
Never said.
It was never said.
Never. My very first time we came to council, we asked for full funding.
Excuse me, it's public comment, not crosstalk.
That's fine.
Okay.
So we've spent already in excess of $25,000 just to get to what I suppose is a very inadequate plan from what I'm hearing, but I wasn't here for most of it.
Rob, they're pretty pictures.
They're pretty pictures, okay. So that's $25,000 of our tax money for some pretty pictures. Now, Dave, you mentioned that it would not increase the tax burden, and I can only assume taxes would not go up because other things would be cut or delayed in order to fund this, correct?
Well, using the same basic formula we have for capital planning, yes, this would have to be, ranked and prioritized among a, long list of capital items that have been requested.
So what items would be delayed or deleted in order to fund it?
I can't answer that because that's council's decision.
We haven't gotten to that point yet.
But something would have to give. We can all agree on that. If you're not going to increase the tax burden,
yes, you are correct.
Things would have to give and programs would have to be cut or delayed
Just
in order
like
to
in
make
your
the
own
tax.
personal budget, if
Okay.
you're going to do something.
Now, Ryan, the designer mentioned that this park could have a 40-year life expectancy, correct?
I can't hear because people are talking over there.
It's the Pilar people are talking.
Okay, if you guys just a little quieter, thank you.
So the park could have a 40-year life expectancy.
Right.
Now, if I remember correctly, the location of this park used to be a BMX track, and it never got used, and the BMX track was demolished.
I don't think it's that area.
I think the BMX track was more where the utility field is going now.
Yeah,
So my question is, what's the cost of demolition? If we're pouring all this concrete, if it ever falls out of favor, how much is it then going to cost to demolish it, or are we just going to leave it there as an eyesore? So if it's a 40-year project, do we really think, are we expecting that 40 years from now, it's still going to be used at the same level as some people think it would be now? Dave, you mentioned that the security that, there's, and I don't care if it's a man or a female wearing it. I don't care if they have tattoos. I don't care about any of that. People are going to do graffiti. The difference with this project is, your analogy is, enough people do graffiti, so we're going to give them some place to do graffiti. Because this all started with the skateboarders in town don't have a place to skate. They're damaging the first aid squad. So let's give them a place to go instead. So that's the difference. The difference is, property has been damaged, police reports have been made, and now we're spending a lot of money to solve a problem. It's not speculation.
It is.
No,
Excuse me, guys. This is public comment, not crosstalk.
Now, Kathy, you said, I stood here before you, I guess 3 years ago at this point, and you said, Rob, you were the only one in town against a skate park. I hope you can agree that that's changed at this point.
An inaccurate statement.
Because I wasn't the only one against it then. I was the only one that bothered to come to town hall meetings to discuss it.
That's the truth, yeah.
But this all could have been avoided. 3 years of getting people's hopes up, a discourse on Facebook and in the town that I have never seen. I mean, the division this project has caused in this community is difficult to watch.
You think the skate park people started that?
It could have, I'm not saying who started it, I'm saying it could have easily been ended if a poll went out to the community to say, what is your stance on this? Before we spend $25,000 of taxpayer money, before people invest 3 years of their lives getting contributions and putting things together and designing parks, where's the townspeople? I mean, it was done when we were talking about replacing PV Park with a pool, but yet it was never contemplated about this. I mean, this issue could have been decided one way or the other, either in favor of the skate park or against it, a long time ago, for spending no money. But this is carried on and on and on, and I hope to God, one way or the other, this resolves, if not tonight, soon, because the division this has caused is ridiculous, in my opinion. Lastly, I'd like to remind all of you, and I'm happy to hear some of the comments I did tonight, each one of you up there is an elected official, and you ran as a Republican. And I hope, and it's refreshing to hear tonight, that some of you are fiscally conservative when it comes to the taxpayer money that, I'm not saying don't spend any money, but when you're using taxpayer funds, we need to get the biggest bang for our buck. So I hope you listen to all the comments and make the right decision. Thank you.
Rob, thanks. Can I make one quick comment back to Rob? I was just going to say, when we started this, I wanted to get a pulse on the community, and I asked for a survey or for it to go to be put on the ballot, and I was knocked down. I was told we didn't have to do that. So.
You don't have to, but it would have been the smart thing to do, in my opinion.
I agree.
Thank you, Rob.
Kathy probably would be wise not to give his,
Yeah, just your name.
just your first name is fine.
Hi, I'm Aaron Mayer, and I'd just like to make this quick, bring up a couple points. Number one, something that I heard mentioned was it's going to be around for many years to come, and will it be used? And here I'd like to ask Brad, the oldest skate park that you've built, is it still used often?
Everything?
Thank you.
Yes, the oldest park that I've built is well used with well over 100 plus people a day.
Where was that, Brett? 1998.
Chandler, Arizona, where I live.
Thank you very much. Also,
Excuse me, let Aaron speak.
Thank you. It was also mentioned that this will be a place for graffiti, and a skate park that I go to a lot, my dad drives me, is in Nyack, New York. It's pretty recently built, and it's packed pretty often. Also a concrete park, and there's not a single drop of graffiti on that park. It's well used, everybody has fun there. There's never a problem. It's not a place that riffraff happens at all. And also, we've mentioned multiple times throughout the night that taxes will not rise. Therefore, people individually, as a person, you will not be affected that greatly. That, I mean, for this small cost, it's going to make so many kids happy. It's going to keep kids out of trouble. And overall, it's just going to be a great improvement to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jackie Stavello, 7th Place, Plumpton Plains.
You got one over here.
Oh, okay. You'll be next.
It's great to see so many people here interested, because I know you guys always had an empty room, you just basically did what you had to do and walk away. And as Rob Cascone said, years ago, nobody was paying attention. I wasn't paying attention. And then you grab people's attention, and look what happens. Look at all these great people, a lot of great kids here to give up their time to come, a lot of skaters. My boys were skaters, they're now 25 and 29, and you know, they are on to other things. They pull the skateboards out once in a while. They both said to me, "Mom, what a great idea, I wish we had it. I've been in town since I'm 6. And I said, "No, my one son just bought a house in town, the other one's buying a house in town." I showed them all the paperwork on it. Millar's $383,000. They're going to be pet taxpayers. They both said, "Oh, no." And they both signed the petition that's going around. So in any case, I just have one question. All you guys who gave your time up tonight, how many skaters were there out here? Like skateboarders. And how many of you live in town? Keep your hand up if you live in town. Okay. Big difference. Great pizza party, guys. Thanks for coming tonight.
Where did they,
Jean Butler, 12 Ackerson. My concern is it's always good, we want something to keep the kids engaged, busy, out of trouble with everything going on. But have you gone to PV and the high school, because it's our taxpayers paying this bill, and asked these kids, are you interested in that? Or what else would you like to see done besides a skate park? You drive up and down these streets, the town's not that big. You can count on one hand in a week how many skateboarders you see. It's a great thing, but I think we're building it for a lot of out-of-towners. So granted, if we're building it for out-of-towners, what is the membership fee per year for these people to use this park? It's not going to be free, correct?
We haven't gotten to that part yet.
Okay, because we pay for PV as residents to swim there, and that's only 3 months of the year. And for the tennis courts could be resurfaced, they need a lot of work on them. And then even as far as PV, but now we're going to fund this and pay for everything to get done, that pretty paw print. The swim lanes were in such bad shape, which thank you to the town, they're redoing them this year. But to the point you're redoing the lanes and every other thing, but you stop at the point of we have to raise $20,000 to pay for lane lines and flags. But you'll pay for every dime of this? I mean, how can you swim as a swim team with no lane lines and flags?
I saw something on Facebook about your request for funds for that, and I was shocked because I didn't see any request come from Parks and Rec in our capital budget. And we're going to be having capital budget meetings in the next couple of weeks, and I had spoke to Pete Coriel about that because I was shocked to see it on Facebook before it even came as a request. We have yet to have those meetings to talk about that. I was shocked that there was no request there, so I find that very odd, and I think that we should have discussion on that offline.
Okay. And one other issue.
Can I ask
Because
a
the
question?
kids- oh,
If I
go
may.
ahead.
When are we going to talk about the Capitol? When are we scheduled to do that?
Thursday.
Oh, did everybody hear that? Thursday.
Is it an open meeting?
All our meetings are open.
What time and where?
6 o'clock, here, be there.
And the one other issue I see, because we don't have a lot of skateboarders, it's a beautiful park, the kids are going to come on bikes, because that's what they do in this town. So how are you going to control that? You got all these skateboarders out there, and here comes our local kids riding their bikes across and up the ramps. I mean, how are they going to share that without problems, without the police being called, without somebody getting hurt?
We're not to that point yet. We haven't even voted a park in yet.
All right, well, that's, I think, a big issue you'll have.
All right.
Thank you.
I just forgot to sign.
Jordan.
There is no pen. I took it, sorry. I'm so excited.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So I got a question for everybody. Honest. How many people are for the skate park?
That live in town.
It doesn't matter. I'm just asking a question.
All right.
Hey, enough. I'm asking a simple question.
You're out of line.
Thank you. How many people are against the skate park? Okay, now let me ask you this. If the skate park costs the town zero, nada, not a dime, how many people would be for the skate park?
How's that going to cost us nothing?
I'm asking a question. That's a question. Not one penny, that's my question. Okay? That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
All right, Jordan, you got the 10.
Thank you.
We're going to go for about another 10 minutes tops, and then we're going to close the public comment, so.
Right, I just want to make one comment. Ryan has volunteered to pay for the entire skate park.
Oh, Mr. Herb. Wow, what a guy. You could put that helmet to good use then.
I don't even know if I had it on right.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Sure. Jordan Galliano, 10 Peck Avenue, Pompton Plains. Many of you have seen me here since October of 2015, and I've been coming to many of these meetings. I mean, this is the first time I've seen this room ever packed out for any meeting, because everyone here is concerned about the betterment of this town. Even if they live in town or don't live in town, they still support something. And that's great, because in a day and age in how the world is running and showing how some people care, some people don't care, this is great to see people coming out for local government. Excuse me, I'm talking, and I would appreciate it if you didn't interrupt me. Thank you. Again, for you too, Steve. Also, I want to paint a picture for everyone here. I understand why I'd assume many of you are artists, appreciate art, and can understand what it takes to create a piece of art. But many don't understand the background to an artist or to having something made. In a world, just hypothetically, whatever the activity is that you're passionate about, whether it's golfing, tennis, BMX, skateboarding, horseback riding, whatever, name it, football, baseball. Imagine if that activity that you're so passionate about is outlawed. Wherever you go, people give you dirty looks. You're called names. You're called a drug addict. You're called a loser. You're called a kid just because you care about something that you love. Imagine being afraid to go to school every day because of the activity that you participate in, because you're passionate about it, because there is no coach, there's no organization, there's no laws on how to do it correctly or incorrectly. Imagine that there's no place for you to practice that sport safely and meet new people and learn about culture and art and music, photography, videography. I know for a fact, I'm 24 years old. I've been skateboarding for 19 years of my life. And for all these people that are here supporting this project, I would not have met any of them if it was not for skateboarding. And the reason I met many of these people from
because of skateboarding was because I had to travel to go skateboard, because there wasn't a place for me in town to practice a sport that I so genuinely love. And I've dreamt of that dream for 20 years of my life. It's tough to do something hours on hours when people don't see the passion that you have for something, when they see football or baseball as their passion, but it's a baseball field. It doesn't change. A skate park, sure, it changes, and it's always different. We're just asking to do one thing for a kid that was like me, that was bullied in school because of the activity that they chose to do, that was afraid to go to school, that thought they never had a passion in life, or that they could never go anywhere in life because of the activity that they chose to do. And by building this skate park, this beautiful skate park that Brad from Pillar Design Studios built, or designed, it's not built yet, hopefully. If you build it for one kid, you can save that kid's life. Because if I didn't have somewhere to go to skateboard, I don't know if I would be here. I really don't. Because skateboarding has helped me through depression, through anxiety, through issues in life, and it's saved my life. And there's a lot of kids that would love to learn how to skateboard, and a lot of people argue saying that I don't see any kids skateboarding in North Pompton Turnpike or the Boulevard. That's because it's a flat piece of land. There's no diversity. There's nothing different about a flat piece of land. How can you excel in something when you don't have the proper facilities to excel in it? If you build something just so simple that any kid would be just super happy about to use for 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 hours in one free day, you're saving that kid's life, and you're giving them a purpose. And something like that is needed in a community that we have to deal with a lot of opioid. Excuse me, Sandy. I really don't appreciate seeing you talking outside my eye.
Excuse me.
I'm talking. Excuse me.
She's like basically doing sign language behind his back. And waving.
Excuse
stop,
me.
please? Can we please
Excuse
stop?
me,
Sorry.
Jordan, can you wrap up and then
Yes,
we're going to move on?
I am wrapping up.
Okay.
So by doing something for a community, for kids that might not have the outlet to be passionate about something that they want to try because the nearest skate park is a 30-minute drive, or that they can't wait on their parents to stop everything that they're doing to take them somewhere, we need to invest in the youth, because the youth are the future. And by doing this, it's given me a great sense of pride in my community, and hopefully to do something and make my town better. We're not derelicts because of the things that we choose to do, but because we're passionate about it, and we want other people to see that passion in what we do. I know $400,000 is a lot of money for something like this. And to do something like this is a great investment in the youth of this town. Thank you.
Sandy,
for Pateri Place.
Excuse me.
If I can find a solution that uses your,
Excuse me, I want to say something.
Okay, sure.
You're the last person, and then we're done.
Okay. If I can find a solution that uses all the equipment that you've had donated, that will allow Jordan to be able to give skate lessons, not only to people from our town, but possibly do demonstrations for other towns, that will not cost our taxpayers any more money, and that will be maintained by the county and paid for by the feds. Would you be interested in that? Okay, I'll get you what you want, because there is, and Catherine, you know about this, the old rail line from Pequannock to Wayne will be turning into a 10-foot wide paved hiking trail that is paid for by the feds, maintained by the county. I've talked to them over at the Morris County Parks Commission, and they would entertain the idea of us, Pequannock Township, coming together and building little out pieces off of the 10-foot path. And in one, you could have the one granite structure. In another, you could have your ramp. There would be things for the community could get involved. They'll have little kiosks. You can say where you got your granite thing donated and have a little plaque with your name on it. And then the town's youth will have 4.5 miles or whatever portion of town they want to skate. You could go on the county and the town website, and you could have a link to your lessons on, let's say, one weekend and the month, and you'll feature the granite thing. And then the next weekend, you might do a lesson on whatever you call the grinding rails or something. So that way, it's not something that's coming from our pocketbook. You get what you want, which it says you want to promote a healthy and active lifestyle. Me too, and this will do that. You want to increase social integration. This will do that. You want to improve social cohesion. This will do that. That path will be intergenerational, and it'll be open to all of you who aren't from town, just as our skate park, so it's no different for you there. It will increase volunteering. It will help to educate and engage the township on the health and community benefits of skateboarding across all age demographics. It will allow for skateboarding and BMX. They said that this path has already been approved for all of those things, just nothing motorized. It will beautify public space in creative and innovative ways. This is creative. This is outside the box thinking. This is using existing resources that we have and leveraging them to meet stakeholder needs, okay? It's also you guys partnering with the county, with Lincoln Park, with Wayne, because it's going to be tied in. It will be an accessible path because it ties into the Mountain View Center. People with disabilities who wanted to go on our path, on the county's path, could do that. We could have little kiosks that point when you get to the railroad tracks by Cosmobella, if they want to do a little sign and a little map that shows, how many feet their business is, or the barn down at the other end of town. So there'll be all these little places, and you can keep adding to them. Plus, we can do fitness trail added on to that. So if you tie into this, if the council ties in to this thing that's already going to be built, that serves everyone, that's maintained by someone else, if we tie into it, you can get those fitness stations. You can have all your little skateboard, whatever, I don't know the names of them all, grinding rails or boxes or whatever. You can have those things strategically placed. It will encourage integrating people, not clustering them and having a hangout, okay? So they can go skateboard down to the concrete whatever that thing, and then go do their thing. If you want to do a lesson, we could put it on the county website in the town. They could pay through Community Pass. And then people, businesses in the community, we can work with the Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce, and let's say they have the first Saturday of the month is whatever day, so, the trail, whatever they're going to name the trail, and they can feature different things, specials or whatever. All the little things that explain about how this came about, how did this start, how did you get that granite piece. They will all be available in accessible format at the police station, so people have a reason to go to the police station for something positive. Our police can get on their bikes and bike throughout our community and interact in a positive way with our community members and people from all over. So I think that there is a better solution that doesn't cost anything for us except for piece by piece what we want to put in. You can use all of your donated equipment. You can have your little sections. It will keep people moving. We can have park benches. We can have maybe local businesses, somebody donate a picnic table near some of these things, so some of the elderly people on the path want to sit and watch you. You wanted them to see what you do.
Sandy, your sign is wrong. It should say, I have a better solution solution.
Anyhow, so I'm saying there are other ways to accomplish the goals. The only goal on their website that this doesn't meet is maintain a quality, concrete public skate park. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's next on the agenda?
We really, no more comments. We've exceeded our 30 minutes, so we're moving on with the agenda.
We'll have it at the end.
And are there any reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? Joe Wells? You might want to wait while people organize themselves.
If anybody wants to stick around, we will have a comment period at the end. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Just so they know.
I like the beer.
Are you ready for bed?
Anybody need a break?
Yeah, right.
Are we good?
Yes.
Are we good?
She said anybody for bed?
Oh, yeah. It's not even 9 o'clock.
Why, because it's a little lighter than your head?
Yeah, my beard is red.
I did. I'm so behind in the email.
Enjoy your drive.
You sure you don't want to stay here?
You're not going to stick around, Mike?
Take care, you too, buddy. He's going to take a seat there, so you don't want to sit back up here?
Very creative.
I have the name of the guy that talks about the county.
Good. I saw you, but I couldn't.
Denise, if you know tomorrow, Chaplik.
Yes.
You're trying to email it to me. I know her.
I'll write her down.
No, I'll put it down. These guys.
Where'd Joe go? Oh, there he is. Where'd he go?
Joe, they approved what?
Oh, well, you know, that's Morris County
We know
Freeway.
him.
Yeah, we know.
We know all them. But the person you're talking about doing this outside the box stuff is Denise.
And she didn't say we're going to actually do it. She said it's definitely feasible.
Let's explore it. What's her name? Chapwick? I know all the freeholders, but I don't know Denise.
She's on the Morris County
No.
Parks Commission.
Got it.
She said she would.
Oh, so is Betty.
You can tie it in different pieces of different. You can keep that whatever you want to. You know.
Thank you, Sandy. Yes. You can stay and we'll have a conversation at the end, but go ahead. There's another comment period at the end. I tried to address it. That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah.
We get it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We agree with you.
All right, Joe, go ahead. Excuse me, we're going to move on. There'll be a second public comment at the end of the meeting.
Why don't you stick around? It's not going to be that long.
Excuse me, we're moving on with the meeting.
If you want to stay, feel free.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street. I have 2 committee reports. I'll start with open space. I'm chairman of the Open Space Committee in town, and we've got a lot of programs going, but fortunately, almost akin to some of the
Can you
discussion.
wait a second, Joe? Can we close the door?
Close the door, please.
No?
No?
No, we're...
Or it's going to be too hot.
No, let's just ask people to step out.
Or ask him to step away, because I can't hear anything.
Close it, Nick.
Why, too hot?
Just ask him to step back, because I can't hear anything.
Oh, I got you.
One of the things that has come up, we've gotten an offer, a grant proposal that we're going to submit in about 2 weeks for planting of, it's called the Roots to Rivers Program. It's a conservation program in the state, and we have the potential of getting a large number of trees, upward of 1,000 trees and shrubs to plant along the Riverwalk. In addition, there is another program that offers some more trees, so we look forward to possibly doing what some comments have been made in the people in the town, that we haven't beautified or increased the shrubbery and trees along the Riverwalk, and this will go a long way to do that. We're going to try to partner with some of the environmental clubs in the high school and other organizations in town. Basically, we get the trees, we have to plant, and we have to monitor them for 2 years.
Are they native to the area?
Yes, they're all native species. That's one of the things that, we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be removing invasives, displacing them, and planting these newer species of shrubs and trees along the Riverwalk. Basically, that was a major focus of our meeting, and we're setting up a subcommittee of people interested. If anybody wants to get involved in that, we'll be glad to take names and use their help. On the other side of the coin, I'm chairman of the Morris County Board of Transportation, and I know I come basically to just give Rich an update on the
bike path.
Anyway.
Are there any updates? When's it coming?
Still 2019, the spring of 2019.
Maybe.
Just to add to what the previous speaker said, it is a 12-foot wide macadam path, and as is required under the grants that we've received, there's federal and state money involved. It's open to bicyclists, skaters, skateboarders, walkers, and even equestrian usage. Not on the paved section, but there'll be a 50-foot grass section on either side of the paved walkway. So that'll be open to many usage, not just walking and so forth. We had a meeting Thursday with the head of the NYS&W, the New York Central and Western Railroad, and as part of our process, we have to clear obstructions on the right-of-way. There's a lot of people over the years. The railroad's been in disuse, as many of you know, for decades, and so people have usurped portions of that right-of-way. And as part of our agreement, Morris County's agreement, Morris County is the functioning party in dealing with, it's a federal program, but we control it in Morris County. And so we're going to be sending notices to people in town. We've done a survey, and it's going to be a joint project with Morris County and the railroad. But I'm going to supply the council with a list of those people and those lot and block numbers where they're going to be receiving a letter.
They're next to the bike path?
Yeah, that's part, in other words, they're encroaching on that right of way. And so they're going to get a notice that their property has to be, it depends on what it is. If somebody's got a fence that's 3 feet into the 100-foot right-of-way, we've discussed this. I'm not going to say that this is our actual program, but we feel that that's not going to be a problem. But when people have unsightly, if they put rubbish in back of their property on the rail, or they have a hazardous condition there, or there's an environmental issue, that's going to have to be corrected.
Joe, what if they have if they put up like a shed or something like that?
They have to be removed,
But what about if it's been there for 20 years?
Doesn't make any difference.
They're not going to have...
They've built... I'll give you just an example so it's visual. We have aerials. The county GIS knows what's there, just like the town does when you do things. Anyway, they have their own property line. There's a fence there. They have a gate that they put in the fence. Now they put another fence 20 feet back, and they put their rubbish and so forth. So I think it's pretty well known that they're using...
What if they refuse to move it?
There's the legal process to do it, and we look at the fact that we hope we don't have to go there. And in fact, if the council would permit, I spoke to the county and the railroad, and I told them that all the citizens of Pequannock were forthright, upstanding people, and would voluntarily...
As we demonstrated tonight.
I would voluntarily move their property off the rail line, and it would be a minimal issue.
Will it delay the project, you think?
No, that's why we're not actually physically constructing a year from, say, April, so we have time to do this. But we have bigger issues both in our town and in, we don't go into Lincoln Park. We go directly into
Wayne, and Passaic County has some commercial properties that are impeding on the right-of-way.
Okay.
And we have some properties in town that have some issues.
I can think of one.
Don't want to get into specific issues here. It's not the right place to do it. But anyway, I just, like I say, I'll give you guys a heads up on those blocks and lots that have to try to get together with you, Dave, and give that a review.
No, we appreciate you updating us, because it's probably our number one question for like years.
And everyone asks it, yeah.
Yeah,
Asks us.
30 years.
Joe, I have a quick question.
30 years I've been working.
Two quick questions for you, and you kind of alluded to it. So, some of the holdups are with easements on individual properties. Will that totally change the scope of the project, or no, we just won't have entrances there?
We have three things. We have people that are transgressed onto the property. We have people that have a lease. There are primarily commercial people that actually have a lease where the railroad is allowing. Those leases are 30-day voluntary. So in other words, we're going to, according to the president of the railroad, we're going to call in those leases and change that. We do have easements, some in perpetuity, that are an issue that they're not easily gotten. Most of those are crossings and accesses to property. Somebody's got a road that parallels the situation. So
the railroad granted them an easement.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, the railroad still, we've entered into an agreement. We haven't bought the property. We have an agreement for $4 million change to acquire the property. But part of the agreement requires them to clear obstructions to the line. And that there will be some difficulties in some cases, I'm sure. Don't smile to me.
But they won't delay the project.
I can't say that. I mean, we're a year away from it. Would I wouldn't be, I've heard a lot of people comment here about things that were said as, I don't know, guarantors of something happening, and I find that, crazy. But anyway, I digress. And I won't talk about anything other than this subject.
We appreciate it. No, but we appreciate it.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
Any questions?
Yeah, no, the only other thing is the previous speaker, Sandy, had brought up some things, but I was just curious, and you've been at this for a long time, so I just wondered what you thought what the feasibility would be at exploring that. That's
we are, the commercial kiosks, I have difficulty with that. I don't think that would be permitted. We are going to do benches, and we would invite people to improve it, and we have planned at Aquatic Park, at Washington Park, and other areas, we're going to have an egress from the trail, and we would denote a public recreational point on the trail. As to the, I don't want to comment about the rest of it. I'll just be neutral there. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Any other from volunteers? You're going to update us on the environmental. Did anything happen that I missed?
You've just been put on the spot.
He's good at it.
I can say something. No, Tom Andreas, 6 Elm Road, Pompton Plains, Secretary of the Environmental Commission. I'm just subtly opening up my calendar so I get the right date. There's one thing we're looking at doing that's very interesting. On Saturday, April 28th, from I think 9 to 1, we're still working out the details. We're going to work with Joe Golden, the Shade Tree Commission, and Joe alluded to a sapling distribution or tree distribution. But this is different than what he's referring to.
Okay.
We're going to be doing it in the town hall parking lot by the gazebo. We're going to be giving away 2,000 saplings, free to anybody.
When is this?
April 28th, I think it was. April 28th, starting like 9 a.m.
Okay. How many can I take?
Probably 10, 15, but your responsibility, and we're not going to check you on this, you have to plant them and take care of them and nurture them and grow them. But the idea, it's a replacement for trees lost during Sandy, I think is the official name of the program. So we're getting those trees.
How big are the saplings?
Probably around that big. Yeah, they're not huge. They're small ones. They're bare root stock, but there's really great trees we're giving away. So if residents want to take advantage of that and start, put a tree in their yard, it's fantastic. That's one of the main things and one of the newest things we're working on.
Okay.
And of course, it's all with Dave's approval too, because, it involves a lot. Joe Golden's time to get the saplings. And I think it's going to take 2 pickup trucks to even go get the sapling trucks. It's a big deal. We're going to be giving away a lot of saplings.
Where do you get the saplings from?
The county.
The county.
The sapling farm.
Yeah. Joe's saplings, no. But there's
it's a great program.
It's a grant kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that's really interesting that's coming up on the Environmental Commission.
Right. Thank you very
Mayor,
much
for the opportunity.
Sure.
Talking about the environment and the river and the blah, blah, blah. The mayor cleanup, well, we have more people than we normally have.
Oh, yeah.
The mayor's river cleanup is April 7th, and anybody that would like to volunteer to come out. You have a place? Get yourself about 6 or 7 people, and I'll assign you to that spot. Anybody, we meet at the senior house that morning. Kids are welcome, and it's a great thing. We go out, and the skateboarders are more than welcome to clean up around Washington Park and other areas. We clean up along the river, ditches where people tend to throw garbage and so forth. So again, April 7th, everybody's welcome.
Thanks for the extra. Joe, you should have said that during public comment before. We had a packed house.
He tried.
She wouldn't let me get up.
Hey, I'll tell you.
I'm a mean mayor.
She is.
Okay. We're going to move on. There's no public hearing scheduled for this evening. There are no ordinance for introduction, so we're going to move on to resolutions for approval. Next on the agenda, Ms. Marsh.
For the council's consideration tonight, there are 3 resolutions, beginning with R 2018-63, authorizing release of designated escrow deposits, 2018-64, appointing individuals to serve on the Open Space Advisory Committee, and those are the liaison positions that we wait a month to appoint, and they're reappointing all the same people from last year. R 2018-65, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the February 23rd, 2018 bill list.
Thank you. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
I was just going to say, for clarification for everyone, the only reason these appointments are being done now is we had to wait until the committee started, so then they could appoint their liaisons. Otherwise, we just do our appointments in January and June. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2018-63, 64, and 65.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. There are no...
You notice how that side does they'll do their one will, and then it will be this side.
That's very good, right?
He was very he was right on it.
So I thought
Yeah, you're a little slow at the...
You're right, that's probably what
You're slow at the switch tonight.
There are no items for discussion. Next on the agenda is important notice. Are there any comments or questions on council on any of the notices?
No.
No?
No, just can't wait for the Memorial Day Parade.
Hopefully the sun is out this year.
Memorial Day. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Holberg.
Okay, Township has filed a letter of intent with Morris County Historic Preservation Board for the 2018 grant cycle. We are going to request a grant for work to Martin Berry House based on HMR's plan, which we received a copy of that about a month ago at its 75% complete mark. They're actually sending it to us and directly to Morris County Historic Preservation Board, the completed final version. The approximate cost of those improvements and the amount they suggested that we apply for a grant for is in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $350,000.
Could you talk about a little bit what's in that? Just some of the highlights?
It's roof, doors and windows, access, site work, HVAC, replacing the furnace. I think there is one other item.
Okay, good. No, that's...
Those were the major components of it.
All right, thank you.
Mountain Avenue water main is almost complete. That section from the tank down to West Parkway. There's about 200 feet left before we get to West Parkway. So everything up is complete and functioning. Over the next couple of weeks, they will be testing the tank and making sure that is all working correctly. The one area that we had concern about was the crossing of, there's a small viaduct just before you get to the very last section of Mountain Avenue. It goes over a DOT drainage swale. And former Councilman Vanderhoff, he's not here anymore, had indicated that there is a very large rock there, which they found. There is a very large rock there.
So where every rock is here?
Apparently he does.
He's been around a while.
So it took 2 tries, but they were able to complete that, so that section is done.
When will that be paved? When will Mountain Ave be repaved?
Finally repaved, probably fall this year or spring next year. It all needs to settle.
Right.
And they're still doing connections this week, so they're not done digging.
And how far down West Parkway are we going? All the way to...
Well, we're going all the way from Mountain to Sunset Road, where Sunset crosses, and that one section is kind of half blocked. It's one way across there. So, yeah, that'll be going on for about 2 months.
It's a long road.
During that time, during construction hours, traffic will be maintained, but probably only one lane, so alternating one lane. We are going to try and work with the hospital, and we're going to try and have most of their traffic use Boulevard to Sunset. If we can get some cooperation there, it should take a lot of the traffic off that section.
Yeah.
And then repaving it later.
Will there be any kind of water interruption usage?
No. We won't be able to do a portion of that until April, because there's going to be temporary water mains, like we did in the village. They'll be above ground, but we can't do that until we're not in danger of freezing.
Okay.
So the couple areas that have houses, which is mostly towards the Mountain Ave side, and then back up towards the Arundel area. So we're starting kind of in the center there.
So, Dave, the top part of Mountain Ave never had city water, right?
There are 6 additional homes that will have access to city water.
So there's no requirement for them to hook up once it's in front?
We do not have a mandatory hookup. However, under environmental rules, should their well go bad and they have access,
they have no choice.
They do have to. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, most of them are connecting, or will connect shortly. Yes.
Okay.
And we've had one request for actually one additional connection based on a planned subdivision, which will accommodate so we don't have to dig the road up again, but it's going to be at their cost. Okay, and a number of things happening. April's busy, a bunch of things in May, so a few things to put on your calendar.
Thank you. Councilwoman Florence Lynch?
Yes, okay. Just wanted to mention, the mayor and I went to a kickoff meeting for the Morris County Community Development Services the other day, and then the next night, last night, I then went again to be a representative on the board to hear 5 presentations from 5 different towns who submitted community development block grant applications for various projects. It was very interesting. First time I was involved in that. I thought the process was great. We then gave recommendations of the projects by ranking them looking at certain criteria, financial need, and, is it a project that should move forward? Are they ready to roll? Are they utilizing other sources of funding? So we gave our recommendations by ranking and then recommended funding. And then that input is then given to the freeholders. And it's federal funds, and each project was an $80,000 request. Although the funding doesn't come, the number doesn't come out until the fall, they base expected funding from the previous year. So there was an $800,000 funding balance. But I thought it was a very interesting process, and I'm glad I got involved in that. So thank you, Mayor. In addition to that, the library board met, and just a couple of highlights. There were a new employee. They had hired someone new in January that had taken someone else's spot who had resigned, and he's doing very good. His name is Nicholas. He's brought a new flavor into the library. He started on January 22nd and has already done a lot. Just trying to get more up to date. He's now includes, he added Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and different social media platforms to the library, which has really worked well. He has, they're changing some of the terminology. Instead of the old days when it was called the Reference Center, it's now called Adult Services, and you'll see that signage change. He's working with the high school media specialist on getting library cards for the students. He's also initiated something called BYOD, which is an interesting phenomenon. It's called Bring Your Own Device for the patrons, so they can bring their device into the library and learn how to use it, whether it's an iPad or a cell phone or a laptop or whatever. So I thought that was interesting. And he has been putting out just a lot of messages just so people know what the library has to offer. So in a nutshell, real quick, free wireless internet, public access computers, copy machine, youth, teen, and adult programs, magazines, books, music CDs, DVDs, and audiobooks, and Nooks and Nexus tablets. So a lot of people don't know what the library has to offer, and you can see the addition that's going on there for the children's room at the library. It's coming along very nicely. I peeked inside at the last board meeting, and it's going to be a great space for the kids, and that was all done with donated money, so that was great. In addition to that, our Economic Development Committee meeting is tomorrow night at 7:30. Actually, there's a subcommittee meeting at 6:30 earlier, just to do a subcommittee, and a commercial realtor is coming to sit in with the group for a roundtable discussion. And I think that's all I have. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Hurd?
I got nothing. Joe stole all my thunder about the tree sampling, so I got nothing this one.
Councilman Cole?
All I have is Fair Housing meets tomorrow night at 7. I've had numerous conversations this week with Nicholas from Greener by Design, so the ball's rolling there. So
good stuff. Councilman Phelan?
Okay, my schedule for March is a little crazy. I almost had to fly to Dallas tomorrow, but that changed. We have a planning board meeting on the 20th, I think. I'm supposed to be in Dallas on the 20th, so I don't know kind of what my schedule is. So
keep me updated.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated. I know we have a lot of things going on in March, but unfortunately we have some issues in Dallas, and I almost had to go there.
Close to California.
It's a shorter ride, as I like to say. The shade tree met yesterday, and we talked about shade trees. Okay, that was basically the conversation. And Company 1's fire company meeting is on Friday, and Company 2's is on the following Thursday. So, and we're having our budget meeting this Thursday, correct? Right. Or for capital. Okay.
Great.
That's it.
Okay. I have just a couple things. Last May, we talked about Pequannock Township becoming stigma-free. and we really didn't do anything since then. We just kind of declared ourselves stigma-free.
Stigma.
Stigma-free, for health.
So now we gotta
For
do
mental
more.
health.
Oh, okay.
We gotta do more than signage.
Yeah, so Mary Vinus came here, she gave us a whole nice presentation, we declared ourselves stigma-free, but we didn't do anything. So I had coffee with Mary Vinus the other day, and we talked about how we could start to become involved in this. And her first suggestion is that people in leadership positions, especially if you're dealing with youth, should engage in this training that they have grant money for. She actually asked if council would participate in that as leaders of the town. And it's called Youth Mental Health First Aid Training. It's similar to learning CPR or how to dial 911 or the Heimlich maneuver. This is about, everybody has experienced it somewhere. You either know someone or someone in your family or something like that. She gave me statistics, and this is her business, not mine. It's like, it's 1 in 4 teens are experiencing some kind of mental health issue. So what this does is it teaches people who interact with youth to recognize when there maybe is some kind of breakdown happening and how to be attuned to that and guide them to where the resources are. There are a lot of local resources, which include Newbridge Services. She told me, she said things like, teenage suicide is on the upswing. She said social media is out of control. It's a frenzied world and it's causing a lot of tension with our teenagers. And she said that she really would like us to participate in this. She said she can handle a group of 20. So our calendars, I know, are booked for like the next month. But after that, if we could just get some dates together.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to go.
Well, it's long training. It's 8 hours.
That's fine.
And you can do it.
Where would it be?
You can either do it.
We can have it wherever we want. It can be 4 hours and 4 hours, or you can bang it out in a day. I'd say bang it out in a day, but that's whatever.
Let's just talk about what day that is. That has to be a weekend.
Well, we're gonna have to look at our schedules and figure that out, but maybe a weekend would work, but,
So I will start to get dates from her, because we would like other leadership, maybe from the churches, from coaches, people who, people in town. And I'm talking to all of you out there too. If you're interested in this, let us know, let Carol know. We'll get a group together, and she's, like I said, she can handle about 20, and there's grant money to cover this. So if you're interested, I'll move forward. If there's no interest level.
No, we talked about it last year. I had talked about it with, started this last year, and we said we want to move forward.
Right, depending upon the day. It can't be.
Well, I'll float a couple days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right.
I'm in.
Okay, great.
So here's the big question. All 5 of us can't go to something without.
We can have.
We can
advertise it. Yeah, we can advertise it.
We're meeting anyway, we'll figure that out.
It's training.
Carol and I will figure it out.
Okay.
It's training. We go down to the league and we train.
And if there's other, like you said, if there's other people that want to go, it can be up to a group.
Well, it'd be a lot more interactive if you have more than us. You definitely want more people in there.
We have one right there. Sign up, on the way out, give your names to the clerk.
Yeah, because I think it's really important that leaders in the town get involved in this. Like I said, we lose one, that's too many. Also, we had sent out something to all the Board of Ed, to all the different high schools where our residents go. I advertised it on Facebook. We have not gotten one application for the scholarship for the League of Municipalities.
What a shame.
Which is really a shame.
So it says, I guess they don't need the money. I don't know. All they have to do is write 500 words. So the deadline is coming. It's March 9th. So if you know a junior or a senior and they're looking for scholarship money for college, the instructions were sent to the schools. Guidance counselors, I'm sure, have it. It's on my Facebook page if you want to pull down the application, or you can contact Carol and get a copy of the application. If you know a junior or senior, all they have to do is reside in Pequannock.
That's all they have to do?
Yeah, they don't have to go to school here. They can go to...
Right, they could be...
They could go to DePaul. They could go to Don Bosco. They could go to Seton Hall Prep.
Define live here.
This is where their residence is.
They just need to have their residency.
They have to show their...
Kathy, do we know how that was distributed to the schools?
It was mailed to them and emailed to them.
I emailed it to them.
Yeah, they have it.
I just wanted to make sure, because it's surprising that we didn't get anything yet.
I work in higher education, and I will tell you, people don't apply for scholarships. They don't worry about it. Let my parents worry about it.
Really?
That's how they look at it.
So parents, go after...
Easiest to apply for.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record. Man in the purple shirt.
Hi, my name's Ted Tuttle, 166 West End Ave. I've been in town for a few years now. Tonight, a night like this is kind of sad to me, coming into the town like this and seeing this kind of divide, because there's a lot of different ways that we could have a divide like this, and this is not the way to handle it. I feel like I'm in the movie Footloose, like we're talking like crazy talk about things that some people, nothing against anyone in this room, you know, we come from different places, clearly, where you're talking about the different schools of thought we have here. I think there's different ways to tackle this, and all I ask the council to do when you're looking at this is to talk about the issues we have at hand. There's a lot of things about prejudices and other things like that. Listen, I have 2 kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old kid. I don't ever plan on giving them lessons for tennis. It doesn't mean that I don't want to support the courts getting refinished. It doesn't. I might never have the kids play baseball either. Like, how many baseball fields do we have in town? It doesn't mean that I don't want to support other kids that do. And I think it's short-sighted to say that this is going to bring a bad element into town and that it's going to. It's prejudice. In the time we live in, I thought we would be more aware of this type of prejudging people. I appreciate Sandy coming up with an alternative. That's great that you come up with an alternative, and whether you know it or not, it's not your suggestion about putting something on a bike path. That is not conducive to a skate community, because it's like telling each kid to go to a different baseball field and we'll play a game. It doesn't really work. You want to get together and you want to teach. Part of skateboarding is you take turns, you give props, you say great job. You don't go to different locations and say, you know what I did today? You should have seen it. You know, you should have been there. It doesn't really work like that. So I appreciate that you come up with a suggestion, an alternative, albeit I don't agree at all with the way you did it. You know, threatening the council that we won't vote for you. I don't think that's the way to get anything done, with a threat. And I don't really appreciate the way that some of the people in the room that were here before were carrying themselves. And I just ask that the council please think about the matters that we actually have at hand. Finances, huge issue. Understand, don't come in with a decision before you actually take everything into account. That's all I can really ask of you.
All right. Myself, I know I'm not a prejudiced person, and I do not judge anybody. To me, this is all about the money aspect of it. So I don't want you to think that I'm going to say, oh, I don't want these bad people in the town, because I'm not a prejudiced person.
That was commentary towards the...
Okay, but, and I apologize for some of them. Some of them are not in the same situation that I am in. So purely from my standpoint, it's about money, 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 and doing the right thing.
And I appreciate, and that's why we have a town council to make these kind of decisions for us on behalf of us, and we do appreciate that. That's why we live in this, we're all proud to live in this country, and that's a great part of our democracy, the way we have it run. But I think it's hard when you value a baseball, a little league, more than somebody else that might not be their thing.
All right,
so I think to say
I can speak for everyone on this council. Hey, one at a time. Let him finish what he's got to say. He's got the floor. Go ahead.
It's just hard to put a return on investment when you're talking about humans.
Okay, my decisions are not based on being reelected, I'll tell you that, because to be quite honest with you, that's the least of my issues, okay? It is not about being reelected. My job is great. I love the job I have during the daytime. This just takes a lot of my time at night. Okay.
I think I can speak for every member of the council here. We are all for something like this, whether it's a skateboard park. It all comes down to financial. So we just have to figure out if we can do it, and that's kind of where we are, I think.
I ask you to treat it like you would any other sport or other athletic outlet. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Louise?
Louise Marchese of 16 Roland Road. We have $4 million for these trails. Can't we somehow be able to clean up the area that I live in? By the way, I'm the only one that represents my area. You see all the people that were here tonight? I'm the only one from my area.
Louise.
And I'm going to make my voice known, because I'm only one person.
Louise, I will come in your area on that day and clean up. I will volunteer with you, okay?
Let me finish. I'm going to go back. I started in the wrong spot. Where I want to go back to is open space. We were told when those houses were taken down, it would now be called open space. Well, somehow it's not open space anymore. See, when a tree falls down, we can't do anything because it's open space. Well, guess not. Now it's not open space anymore, and now we got 2,000 trees that we're going to plant somewhere. I'd like to know who's even going to plant them, because maybe the same person that plants them could come and clean up the trees that are down since Sandy. So I'm saying two things. I'm saying, number one, finding the $4 million somehow that we could clean up Riverside Drive, and number two, if those 2,000 trees fall down, who's going to pick them up? And if they're going to be picked up, then the rest of the trees on Riverside Drive should be picked up. And just to let the rest of you know, this isn't the first night that this room was filled. I'm here 32 years, and I can tell you when there's an issue, people come out. This is not the first time this room was filled. So don't pat yourselves on the back. There's plenty of us that care, and that's basically why.
Louise, can I ask you a quick question? I know you had come in front of council, I don't know if it was a couple of meetings ago or a couple months ago, talking about this same issue with Riverside, and I believe the town manager said that we'd check it out. Did anybody come?
I think Mr. Wells was going to.
I was trying to figure out who was going. Did you go?
Did you two connect?
Can I respond?
Yeah, I wasn't sure who was going.
Go ahead.
But I knew somebody was.
All right, three things.
Name and address.
Spending $4 million on the Riverwalk. We got a federal grant.
Sorry, Joe. Mr. Wells.
Joe, you got to get to the microphone.
You can hear me, can't you?
No.
All right,
We got to record you, Joe.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
You must go on the record, Joe.
Okay. Three things. The $4 million that the lady mentioned is for the rail trail. Has nothing to do with the Riverwalk and nothing to do with that property that she's talking about. The Riverwalk is a project. I got a grant, a federal state grant, to improve the area where we took the houses down all along the flood area of Pequannock Avenue, Riverside, Harrison, North Pequannock, and that money didn't come from the town. We had to match some small amount, but most of it's from federal grants. So the $4 million has nothing to do with the area that she lives by. Secondly, at the meeting that she alluded to the fallen tree, you couldn't walk on the trail because there was a tree down. Right after that meeting, I walked the trail. There is no trees blocking the trail. But I'll say thirdly, it's a woodland. We have Mountainside Park, we have Aquatic Park. It's not like Greenview Park. It's a rural, wet, wild area. There are trees down. There will be trees down all the time. It's the woods. You know, we let it go to a natural state. We're not going to clean it up like we do a ball field and manicure the grass and so forth. And I think she has a wrong impression about what's expected of hiking trail and what's going to happen there. And I think that I just want to make a correction in those things. That's all.
Well, thank you for clarifying.
Louise, you done, or you still have something else?
I understand that about the $4 million and what have you. If it can't be used for this area, again, we were told, open space, never going to be touched. The other thing that I'm saying is, if those 1,000 trees that are planted, if we get another Hurricane Sandy, and those trees go down, are they going to be picked up? Are they going to be cleaned up? You know, it's got to be one rule. It's got to be one set of rules for open space. It can't be, you know, what we feel like, and if there's a trail, or maybe this, or maybe that. I just want to get one story as far as open space goes. If we're not going to clean up, fine, but then let's have to go for the 1,000 trees also. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve? You can go, Frank, next.
Hello. My name is Stephen Wolf, and I'm not from Pequannock. However, I run a nonprofit organization that serves many young people from Pequannock. And years ago, we realized that the organization that I'm a part of is a mentoring program. And so, actually, let me back up a sec. I'm going to attempt to address the budget issue with the risk of getting shot.
Could you state your name and address for the record, though?
Stephen
Wolf. And your address?
55 Grandview Ave in Hawthorne, New Jersey.
Thank you.
So I'm going to attempt to address the budget topic with the risk of possibly getting people upset. So this is a little bit of perspective from like the nonprofit world. Years ago, I realized that the organization I run is a mentoring program. And so I thought, if I run a mentoring program, I should have mentors in my life. So I reached out to other executive directors in our field and asked them to mentor me. One guy today that I consider my friend runs a local organization that raises $2.5 million year after year after year after year. $2.5 million every year to serve people living on the street, to serve homeless people. Absolutely worthy cause. I would suggest that even if $500,000 were to be budgeted for young people right here in Pequannock, that is a very fair use of funds for one-time investment. Even like $1,000 every year for upkeep, I would love to have that much for our organization to have to raise for annual upkeep. So I think it's a very fair amount.
Now, you said how many people from Pequannock have you serviced?
It fluctuates year after year, but I would say easily in the past 15 years that we've been doing this, between 50 and 100 young people from Pequannock.
Steve, you had said you're mentoring, you're head of a nonprofit.
Yes.
Do you mind telling me what the organization?
It's called Solid Foundation, and we're mentoring through skateboarding and art. And we're just about to celebrate 20 years.
Steve, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Can you use your expertise and help the skate park nonprofit get $400,000 or $500,000 for this project?
You said that you looked into grant money. Wondering like if there was any database used or how that. Like,
We're not a poor town. We don't qualify. Our median income's too high to qualify for any of those grants. When you look at the census from 2010, I think our median income, if I'm right, it's like 74 or 76,000, the average person, and for grants, it's too high.
There might be other angles to approach the whole thing with, like maybe just getting kids outside or getting kids off their devices, different things like that.
Would you be able to look into that for us?
There is a library that I've visited before. It's in New York City, and it has this huge database of foundations and grants that are available.
It would be interesting because I'm not so sure that this project is only driven by the census and income, but I don't know.
Most grants are, because the grant is a gift.
Right.
It gives to people in need.
No, I know, but
and
there might be another angle, though.
That they feel our town can afford, unless you have someone who donates who, like the library, like a bequest, something like that, somebody who has a heart for this and gives money like
you
that.
might be able to find that
And
angle.
before anyone would make a donation, and I'm pretty good at fundraising.
You've done this a lot.
Before anyone can make a donation, you need something that you can present.
Right.
They have something they can present. You also need to have the home organization have skin in the game.
Right.
We have skin in the game. We have $150,000 into the game.
Right.
So now I would think with that and with this, and they've done a tremendous job with the in-kind donations, they should be able to continue and maybe wrap the whole thing up without us putting any more money into this.
That is
Including the
possible.
fence.
But the thing is people who want to donate say, is the project moving forward? And this council hasn't said anything.
But they can say that the council has put $150,000 aside for this. They paid for the design. Here it is. No one is going to make a donation if the home organization doesn't have any skin in the game. Period.
Can I comment on the suggestion of the other, doing it on the trail? I mean, just envision a bunch of skateboarders on a trail shared with elderly. The skateboards are shooting out. They're going all over the path. And there's senior citizens. My grandmother.
Seniors are going to have to be on the left side and the right
That would be a little dangerous.
It's the only way it can work.
I don't see it working. So
Anybody over 50, it's on the left.
they can help it. We'll give them skate lessons.
That's
right.
much. That's Councilman Dave Cole.
Only one person here can go there. Kyle?
County parks have skateboarding on bike trips already.
Well, that's kind of like more longboarding, probably strolling along as opposed to doing tricks.
Kyle Russell.
They can do whatever they want, but certainly they can't knock over an old lady.
That would not be good.
That wouldn't be preferred.
If they're under 35, they can probably push them over.
Let's hear from Kyle.
Okay, Kyle Russell, 6 Walnut Ave, Pumpkin Plains. Quick question, wasn't there money held with their 5013C for the last 3 years? So was the money held with your 5013C?
Sure.
So why didn't they help them raise the money then?
You're asking council or asking them?
Well, I'm kind of asking like both.
Was that supposed to be?
Well, no, because the council had asked him, could they help them? And I'm asking, well, they held the money there for 3 years. Why weren't they helping them?
The question is, why didn't we help raise funds?
Yeah, well, they had just asked, and you said, oh, there's some places I can look in New York City, but they held the money with you. And then they moved it.
We have a significant budget of our own to raise year after year, and that, my priority.
Okay.
That was my priority, raising the funds for this, and for me to go, like Kathy said, in order to get funding for this town, nobody's going to give us money because they see the median income is $73,000 a year. So for people to donate, they say, well, I'd rather spend that money in Patterson or Passaic or Clifton or Tuscaloosa. So why? I mean, it's tough to raise money when you don't have a final design, like Mr. Cole was saying, and then we bust our butts for 2 years to get it designed and get it to get it approved.
To be honest, most of the schools have raised gym equipment. We've raised it without a design, without anything. We've told people we want to put in a new, whatever, jungle gym at North Boulevard, and we raised $30,000. You know? Also, I want to say that I don't think anybody has said anything bad about skaters. Not one person. You said it at your opening.
It's all over Facebook.
I've never.
It's all over Facebook. All you guys commented on it. That's when I went through every single and looked at every single comment.
No.
Absolutely, you're wrong.
I have never said anything derogatory.
It's on there on Facebook.
Skateboarders.
Okay, Kyle, you have anything else?
That's neither here nor there. Also, I want you guys to listen to what Bob Morley said. Whether you know it or not, he is a soil engineer. He builds bridges for a living, so he knows a lot about weight-bearing soil. Reach out to him. He's an in-kind donation, but don't dismiss what he says. Will you be applying for permit by Rule 25? Because Joe Golden told me you were, which means you don't need permits. So are you going for that, or are you not?
I haven't made that determination because we don't have final design, so...
Is it your intent to file for permit by 25?
I don't have an intent to or not to file for permit by Rule 25 until we have a final design and I know what needs to be filed for.
So then the permit fees weren't in the design? Because the permit fees could be rather expensive, no?
They could be, or they could be covered by permits that we already have because we permitted work already at that location.
Okay. Your engineer told me you were applying to apply for a permit by Rule 25, which states you don't need a permit because X amount of coverage over a certain amount of time for the last 7 years, you don't have to get permits.
Which is possibly true for this particular project, but the development of Washington Park as a whole, we had already permitted several years ago.
Right, so you may not need new permits.
It's possible, but again, can't make that determination until we have a final design.
Dave, what does Rule 25 mean?
For very small projects, a permit by rule essentially says that you can, if you meet certain qualifications, you get the permit by rule, without having to apply for, a separate application.
Go straight to go.
So any permit by rule means if you follow these rules, you get the permit.
Right. The in-kind donations, do we have letters? Has our attorney seen these letters where these people have signed and said they're donating?
We have not seen anything.
So
we haven't even had a discussion on the budget yet. We haven't even discussed if we're going to move forward at all yet.
Right. Right, but aren't you discussing this Thursday?
We're discussing the entire capital budget, and that's a series of budget meetings that's coming up, yes.
So shouldn't all this in-kind donations be in writing, looked over by our township attorney to make sure that they're solid in-kind donations, so you can make an educated decision on...
We won't make a decision then. We're just going to have a discussion. We won't make a decision for quite some time.
How long? You have to put it in the budget.
I've already made my decision.
Just because it's in the budget doesn't even mean that it's approved.
Well, you have 150 that you're carrying over. Mr. Holbrook had added another 150, so now there's 250, which has to be...
250's added.
Right.
Not 150, 250, that brings it to 400.
So you have put 400 in the budget?
No, we have to approve the budget. We have to sit down and approve the budget. And like I just said, I'm not willing to put another dime into this.
And that doesn't get approved at a workshop. That just is a discussion.
Right.
And it's a series of discussions.
In front of council up here, and we have to vote on the budget.
Right. There's a time for public comment. There's a whole series of things that have to happen before it becomes real.
Gotcha. As most of you know, we did a petition. The petition was up for 96 hours, requesting that no taxpayer-funded skate park in Pequannock. We got 441 signatures in 96 hours.
Excuse me. Kyle has the floor right now.
Yeah, so we didn't have a chance to vet them. We did delete Donald Duck, and that was okay.
Oh, man.
But most of these, you can recognize the names, you can check, you can vet them.
Will you be giving that to us?
Updated copy.
Can we have that tonight?
Is that still up by any chance?
That is still up. You
Okay,
can go up and...
Can you give a copy of that to the clerk?
So
she
I
can...
haven't had a chance to vet these. My own daughter, for some reason, she says she lives in Roswell, but she lives in my house.
Do you want to vet it before you submit it, or do you want to submit it?
I can give it now, or I can submit
That's up to you.
My suggestion is wait until you have more signatures.
And then submit.
That's your choice. Whatever you want to do.
In 96 hours, we have 441 signatures.
Carol,
Thank you.
Kyle, do me a favor, when you do submit it, just do it through the clerk, and then she'll end up...
Disseminate it to everybody.
Disseminate it to all of us.
And she'll give it to us too.
Right. Well, I'm just saying.
Hopefully an email.
Just to make sure everybody gets it if you go through the clerk's office.
Gotcha. And Brad's gone, I just had some design questions. Is there any way we can submit design? I wasn't picked on in the first thing. Is there any way we can submit questions to Brad?
It's up to you if you want to.
Well, if we want, we can gather them through the manager's office, and we'll have Dave communicate with him if people want to submit. Over the next 24 hours, if anybody goes home and thinks of a question.
Okay, great.
Everything should be done through the manager's office.
Thank you for your time.
I thank you. Steve?
Stephen Connolly, 44 Duncan Avenue. So donations. One thing we've learned a lot about doing this is that, yes, the home organization does need skin in the game, but it's not money that's put in a budget that's not allocated. It's usually a resolution that they need before they'll donate. Having the design helps. So we are at a point where, yeah, we could start doing more donations, but as far as corporate, where we'd like to go, you need an operating budget from the home organization, so you need a resolution. So that's why we're at $7,000. So if people are wondering why we haven't raised that, well, we're not an organization that has an established location, like a football field, a hockey team, anything that I've donated to in the past whenever I see them. So they, we're not at that point yet.
What resolution?
Didn't that happen to you with Stop and Shop?
I don't know, you guys would write it. We need something. Something that you're willing to put into it. Is there a resolution? There's money in a budget. It's different.
There's money in a budget.
Yeah.
So there's no resolution. So that money is just the 150 that's allocated.
Placeholder.
As a placeholder. That's not enough for that's for an organization that vets it and that's going to donate. Okay, and I've talked to a couple corporations about it. Second, in-kind donation, you guys let me know when you want them. I do have it in writing, and I don't appreciate being called a liar. Let's see. Also, yes, some people think that there's no prejudice against skateboarders, or that we're being treated fairly, but we're not being treated fairly. In fact, there's someone in this room that's posting photos on Facebook of a pre-gathering we had at the senior house and calling out what we were doing there, as if it was a bad thing to invite some kids that are in our organization out to thank them for support. So, it should be known that, and I know you guys all see it, that we are being stepped on, okay? Now, petition, it's noted that I think there was 3 people, skaters that shared their petition and skaters that signed their petition. Quite a few. There was a pro skater that shared their petition. They thought it was a pro skate park. They probably didn't read it. They signed it, whatever. So keep that in mind if you see that. I think that's it. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, what did the petition say? I haven't read it
I skimmed it. I don't know.
Okay.
But you'll see it.
When he's done, you can...
He can ask if that's okay with...
What?
What is the approximate total value of the in-kind donations that you have received?
The value of what we have, well, in-kind, you can't really put a value. As far as what it would take off the final cost, there's, you can't really say, because it's not, this is an estimate.
Yeah.
So when I talked...
What's the approximate value?
I don't know.
Because the project didn't go out to bid.
Yeah, it's not out to bid.
Steve, it might be helpful. You had said you had all these in-kind donations in writing.
Yes.
Perhaps give them to the clerk's office. She can pass them out. That would help us in our decision-making.
Okay.
I think they need to go to Bob before they...
Well, or to Bob, but whatever,
Will you redact the company names if there's an Oprah request for it, so that people don't go after the companies?
If people want to be
Yeah, and that's the problem.
That will be done.
Bob, I guess, would have...
Yeah, that does become the problem.
Yeah.
We'll think about how we may be able to...
Because I would rather keep them anonymous
Because that would be...
until
Yeah, it would be
I need
nice
to, because I know there's
have 'em.
folks in this room that will go after those companies and their local companies.
I don't think so.
That would be-
Yeah, no,
You'd be
No, it
surprised.
would be
Yeah.
confidential.
That's true.
It would be
It's true.
confidential
It's
to the council. You can't do that.
I don't think there's anybody in here that's going to go after a company that's going to
Gonna
make this
donate.
You'd be
project
surprised.
go
Be
lower.
surprised, Dave.
No, but
You'd
you
be
made a
surprised.
point, you made a point that you might have fencing donated. That's one of the big...
I had a conversation from somebody, and in fact, tonight in this room, there was someone here that gave me a card that said he was disgusted at what he saw, and he wants to help. So that's, actually some stuff that's going on is helping us. So yes, I had a conversation with a fence company and told him the estimate that we were given by another local fence company, and I can't say who. And this other company, I can't say if they're local, but they'll take care of it. That was the conversation I had.
That has value. You know what that price...
Sure, so that's 18. Or 17.6 was the estimate that we got from...
All of these in...
All those things help.
Yes,
That helps.
but there's some of them like trucking, and then we got a very deep discount on concrete. And when I told Brad about the rate that we got on concrete, he was like, wow, that's cheap, that's great. And we got that in writing. So, but I can't...
That would help the council.
I can show it to you, but I would rather not...
Hand it over.
Until, because I know there will be an Oprah request for it, and Carol will have to go scrambling around to get the information.
I would also suggest going to the corporations. I know that you say that you can't get it without a resolution, but you can actually get a letter of intent based on resolution.
Yeah, I can, but a lot of them don't do letters of intent.
A lot of them do.
Okay. Okay.
There's millions of dollars floating.
Well, a lot of them you talk to, you have a form you have to fill out. Same with grants. Grants especially, that's what you need.
I understand grants, but I'm talking about business owners.
Business owners, yes. Corporations, not so much, because they have, it's like it's an online thing you fill out and they talk to
How bad do you want it?
No, that's what you need.
If you can raise 400,000, everybody in the room said, we're for it.
Yeah, well, give us a resolution where we can meet or something. Well, we need something from you to get there.
A couple other towns are going to.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a catch-22.
Well, it's a catch-22, it is. So, I mean, that's where
you're at.
So I don't know what you want to think about or what you want to spend or what, if you put together a creative resolution, something, I don't know. But you need that to get into corporate donations.
All right,
So,
thank you.
Thanks.
So we well exceeded our 30 minutes.
One more.
Oh, Steve. Sorry, I didn't see you behind.
Gotta get Steve.
We gotta do something with these poles and people.
Put the poles down, no problem.
Yeah, a new building, yes, we need a new building.
No poles.
Right, we'll put mirrors on the poles, I don't know.
You know what?
And you see Steve 4 times.
Steve Mangieri, 17 Foothills Drive, Pompton Plains. We've been attending these meetings since August. We were told, wait for the proposal, wait for the proposal, wait for the proposal. Bob Morley, who was an educated soil engineer, was standing here asking basic questions about the soil. And the gentlemen who were here with the proposal were not prepared to answer the basic questions about the soil. Okay? Bob Morley's very familiar with the soil. He's very familiar with the conditions in the area here. How long is this going to go on until we actually get the answers that the skate park people need, that the people who are not in favor of the skate park need? How long does this continue until we actually get the questions, get the answers? If they need a resolution, how long does this drag on before somebody says, all right, either enough's enough and we're not doing this, or, you know what, yes, it's a great idea, let's go on. I mean, they've waited long enough, we've waited long enough, we've been told that all our questions would be answered at this meeting. The gentlemen who came to the meeting weren't prepared to answer the basic questions on the soil report that they had provided for us. So, what's the deal? When's it end?
Can you guys get a full list of every question that you have?
Okay.
Provided.
How many times?
Why are you laughing?
Because how many times do we ask the questions, Ryan?
I'm asking. No. Black and white questions.
Okay.
Given to Carol.
But why weren't the questions all along that we were told?
I'm trying to help you right now.
Well, okay, I understand what you're saying, Ryan. But all along we've been told these questions will be answered here.
We're here right
and
now.
they're not.
We're here right now today. All the questions, get everything out in black and white. Go to Carol. Now it's public information. It gets disseminated to all of us, and we answer them.
It was public information when we asked them the first time.
I'm helping you right here. Do you want to?
We do, and that's my question. So here's another step. Okay, we have another step in the process.
I think I understand where Steve's going with this. It's, unfortunately, in politics, good politicians keep kicking the can down the road. They don't make a decision. That's the reality.
Sure.
Me, I'm going to tell you, I'm not putting another dime into this. Okay, that's my decision.
I appreciate your honesty.
Okay,
I appreciate your honesty.
But if we can't get to this point and say that this is what we're going to do, I agree with you. This is ludicrous. We keep going round and round.
Part of our due diligence is making sure that we answer all questions. There might be something there that we're not thinking of, or whatever it is.
We're talking money here.
Well, money is one factor, yes.
Money is another factor.
Location is another factor. Is it a clean location?
I said just financial before. It's really location, too. So.
Right, but you're just kicking the can down the road.
Right, so next month we're going to come to a meeting and we're going to ask again, and it's going to say, well, we don't have an answer for that, and then the next month, I think everybody deserves an answer. I think everybody deserves an answer from this council. I mean, why don't we just right now say we're doing this or we're not doing this? I think it's pretty simple.
I don't think we can. I mean, questions about, is the dirt dirty? I mean, is there contamination?
Okay.
I mean,
you know what, Ryan? If we got to spend more money to do that, I'm not in favor of spending more money to find that out.
I don't agree with that, because if we have forget about skate park for a minute, no disrespect to you guys, but if we have a place that has contaminants, there's things that we have to do for that, because we've got kids that are going to be going on a all-purpose field next to it, and we've got Washington 1, 2, and 3. So we have a responsibility there before we think about anything else.
The soil on the new
soil
field is
contamination.
clean, because we found out that it was contaminated, and we took care of it.
All right, so we're 100% sure that that soil is 100% clean.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying, here's what he's saying. I'm not willing to put another dime into it, whether it is to study the soil or whatever. Am I getting that right or wrong, Dave?
Yeah. If it's dirty soil, I want to remediate it, because that is right next to kids.
That's fine, but it's not going to be, we're not going to do it so that we can see if the skate park can be.
I'm not even talking about the skate
Well, I don't
park
think
right
that's
now.
what
I'm just
the
talking about
questions were.
specific.
Dave, when we bought the Jefferson property, we had that soil tested.
Yes.
But that was not
and we removed
in the
soil that was contaminated.
And we removed junk that we found buried in the, but that was not in the immediate area. That was on the other side of the tracks, correct?
No, that's on the same side of the tracks, right where essentially where the old BMX track was. It just, was halfway on to where the flat field is now, and halfway on to where
the skateboard park is going is on our property, our old property. It's not on the new Jefferson.
No, not on that. No, this is different.
We had environmental surveys done on the new property when we purchased it.
Right.
I'm
That's
talking
not
about
this.
the Washington Park property that, is the legacy property there. Has been tested and remediated.
After we found the contaminated soil for the all-purpose field.
Correct.
I mean, he can pull out the paperwork, nobody
The
believes
reason
him.
the all-purpose field wasn't there 8 years ago is because we had to stop and remove all that soil.
That project has been going on for 8 years, hasn't it?
Yes.
It was prior to us.
We're getting old.
It was prior to us being on council.
When Mr. Morley had asked the engineer about the compaction on the site, and he said, you're saying 2 feet. What if you start doing the compaction and you have to go down further? And they said it could be a significant cost to go down further. We don't have the basic engineered questions answered. So we have a proposal for a price for this park that if you look at the proposal, and on note number 2, it says that this is not an accurate construction cost for this project. So they still don't have a number. We still don't have, nobody has a number. All right, this proposed thing is right around $400,000, and we still don't have the information to give them. We still don't have the information to give us. The information isn't there. When is the information going to be available of what the extra compaction will be? There's so many things here that just carry on and on and on, and there just doesn't seem to be an answer for anybody. There doesn't seem to be an answer for them.
Unfortunately, Steve, I think with every project, especially when it comes to drainage and soil and stuff, we see it with the sewer projects, we see it with all these other projects. We get the best estimate we can, but there's definitely going to be changes along the way and other expenses that could happen.
So if there are other expenses beyond the amount of money that he proposed here tonight for this, as it stands, are you willing to move forward with it?
I think
Well, I don't think we would find that out until we put that backhoe shovel in the dirt.
Exactly.
And started, and then it was going to be like,
We've already donated, we've already had $120,000, and then we just put another $200,000 into this budget. Well, we have $300,000 into this budget, and we just found out that this dirt isn't compactable, and it's going to cost us $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. So you're then going to say, well, we already put this money into it, let's double the project. How is that? Where's the solution? Why is nobody willing to say at this price, yes, at this price, no, at a dime more than this price, no? I'm
okay with the $150,000.
I think you got that from 3 council people already.
Right, you got that from 3 council people already.
And if they need something on town letterhead that says that the Pequannock Township is willing to give $150,000 towards this $382,000 project, Dave, write the letter.
Okay.
But what happens when it goes above 382?
Well, they got to raise more.
Exactly.
And if they put that shovel in the ground and they find out that this 2 feet of soil isn't compactable, then they're going to have to...
So why don't we move forward with something? Why don't we give them an answer? Why don't we give them a, hey, look, this is what we're
This
willing to
is
give
the
you.
first
Why don't
time-
we give everybody, hey, look, this is what...
That's why we had the advisory committee and we got to this point for the design. We had to get to this point somehow.
We have the designer here, we had the engineer here, and both of them said, this is not everything. So when does it stop? Does it stop when you open the ground up and find that we need an extra $100,000? Does it stop when you open the ground up and say, oh, well, we hit this?
I think we're giving you the answer when it stops.
Right.
It stops at 150,000.
So that's it. The council is willing to put $150,000.
At least three of us are in agreement that.
All it takes is three.
Okay, I thank you. Have a good evening.
Sharon, she's the last one.
It's past my bedtime, Joe.
Good night, Joe.
4:30 in the morning, jeez.
6.
See you, Joe. I haven't eaten dinner yet.
Me neither.
You could have had pizza earlier, man, I told you.
Good morning, council. I'll be real quick. Sharon Taylor, 19 Libby Avenue, Pompton Plains section of Pequannock Township, zip code 07444. It's interesting tonight to see this room packed, and actually David will chuckle a little bit, but Dave Cox came in my mind, especially with the Woodland Park and the cement. But it's interesting to see all different ages here, what their priority is and what their opinions are. You take a young, youthful person, their priority is about their passion. You take a young adult, their priority is going to be about their family. You take an adult, it's money, money, money.
That's it.
So, unfortunately, though, money is not everything. And I know that, you could sit up there and say, that's all I care about. But if there was ever a major catastrophe here, that's not what we worry about. It's a flip side to the human being. And it's just, as a resident in this township, I've been here a very long time, and I support everything in this township. My money is sponsoring everything in this township, and I don't ever sit back and say, I'm not paying for that field, or I'm not paying for that sport, or I'm not paying for the senior citizen house, I'm not paying for the animal shelter, I'm not going to support my police department, I'm not going to support my first aid squad. That's not how I am. So I'm more of a feeler. I feel about people. And when I see young adults that need a place and they want to explore their interests, I'm going to support that. I'm going to support all your kids in this township. I don't have children. I will never have children. I support everything, and that's what's important to me. And if something that happens in this township, like a skateboard park, a few years ago, I met Stephen here, I met Jordan here, and I even had said to them, this is going to be a long haul. It's a project. Projects, they don't necessarily always end. You start with the project, and you say we're going to go around and around and around in answers. You want all the questions. Get all your answers. It's not going to be overnight. But it's not right to discard any of the residents in this township that want to have it. Because I can easily sit back and say, environmental, how come I see new homes being subdivided? How come I see lots in this township being subdivided? And it was once a 2-bedroom house with 1.5 bathrooms, and now you have 2 homes with 4 or 5 bathrooms in there. Environmentally, that's sucking up my land. And you know what? We talk about flooding. Look how much you've built over the years in this township. Okay? So I understand that, hey, it's going in an area that was once a dump, but my father used to say, someone's trash is another's treasure, right? So if there is something that's contaminated there, I truly believe that it's not just in that one section, it's probably around that whole park. So if you have to get something tested, we've been talking about this for years, then get it tested. I believe in my township. I believe in the employees that work here. If they do the due diligence and they do have the specs done, and they're saying this is going to be safe to build a park on, I'm going to trust them, because that's what I pay for. And I just want to say that, when we come to the terms of graffiti, our police department's going to be where I believe in our police department just as much as anybody, okay? And I truly don't believe there's going to be graffiti. I don't believe there's going to be any harm. I know in my mind and in my heart there isn't. But I don't agree with a lot of people saying we don't want out-of-towners here. Okay? One thing I could say is those out-of-towners bring you your business. They bring you your money, and they bring you new people to come into this township and build a family, and to have a home, and to use this township. So when we say we don't want out-of-towners, I don't believe that either. And I just want this council to not always just put money in front of everything. You have to look at a balance between the human side and the cost side. Because easily, if you're going to worry about money, then you know what, when we go through the budgeting on Thursday, I'm going to start nitpicking at every little single thing that we spend our money on. Because there's a lot of things we spend our money on I don't necessarily agree with, but I support it. So I just want you to take that in consideration. And you should be applauding the youth here, because they have a passion. And I'd rather have them love what they do than be stuck in something that they're not happy with, because then life will be very, very long and very, very hard. Okay? So, thank you. Have a good night, and I hope the next meeting is just eventful as this. Take care.
You got Mike to have another post.
Mike.
Well, if council's willing, we'll give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, Mike.
We haven't had dinner yet.
Me neither. Mike between 8 Reynolds Road. It's not a skateboard question. I just, has there been any update with...
All right.
Any update with the disputing the FEMA maps?
Not yet.
Not really.
The process started.
Yeah, the period for official dispute just opened, and we are filing our appeal.
Okay. And when do you, what's the process? How long
It's a
does that?
90-day.
Well, it's a 90-day window to file. FEMA has as long as they want to review.
Okay. All right, thank you. And last question, has Joe Golden addressed the council, his opinion on that property, the skateboard?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Was there someone? All right, come on up. And that, I'm telling you, that's it.
That's it?
That's okay.
All right, hold on. Go ahead.
No,
My name is Mike Del Purgatorio. I'm from Bloomfield, New Jersey. I just wanted to say one thing, just observing this whole meeting. I don't regularly attend town meetings in my town. They tend to get fairly heated as well.
This was not a heated meeting.
Okay. Well, one thing that I observed at this meeting, and I would like to point out to everybody involved here, is I know there was a lot of grumbling about people raising their hands that didn't live in the town that are here to support. But one thing, I've been skateboarding for over 20 years, and it's one thing that has taught me is a sense of community. And to touch on what several people here said, it shows that all different walks of life, all different age groups that are involved in skateboarding are a community. We come out for our friends that live in different towns, different states, different countries. And I think it's a valuable lesson that everyone, especially what the woman was just saying, it doesn't always come down to money. I understand you have budgets and things that you need to pay for that may have precedence for public safety, education, things like that would take precedence over a new skate park. But if everyone could just at least walk away from this meeting with an understanding that as skateboarders, we have a very deep sense of community, and we strive to help each other in any way we can. And I think that's something that some people here they're not understanding, and they're attacking all the stuff on Facebook, all online. I'm not sure of this woman's name here, but she at least made the initiative to come up with some kind of other resolution. I don't agree how she did it with all her signs as well, but most people were coming in just to attack rather than help the situation, where most of us are here to support. And I would hope that if it was another kind of project, not a skate park, but say a baseball field or something else, where maybe you may not be using it, but you could at least support the active community, especially in this day and age where there's so many things going on in this world. I think that's just a very important lesson that everyone here should learn and take away from this meeting.
Love thy neighbor, no exceptions.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, next on the agenda is minutes for approval. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay, there's one, I think, Ryan, where you need
I have to
to...
abstain from the January 9th.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve January 9th, January 23rd, and February 13th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there, we did that, opposed. Any closed session?
No closed session.
Thank goodness. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting.
Thank you, George.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I was going to say, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be at the meeting and at the